Valor series brought to you by Facebook Gaming. I'm joined on the desk by the gentleman that I have the luxury of sharing every single week, Mr. TJ and Envirum. How are we feeling today?
We said last week it was beginning to heat up. We're bathing in a hot tub now. Things are very hot.
You tell the weather. It's raining in LA, but the games have been, so far, spicy. It's been really good. I'm excited.
It's been quite an interesting journey as we find ourselves 6 weeks in, but we always have to, of course, remind you guys of the exciting things that are coming up and the things that are currently happening. What's currently happening right now? The Nintendo Switch and Arena of Valor. If you haven't had an opportunity to go buy it, oh wait, it's free! Go ahead and download that now, and remember, link your accounts from your mobile device over to the Nintendo eShop so that way you can get yourself some extra goodies, some extra gold to get yourself involved with Arena of Valor. Not only that, we have Annette, a new hero that has graced the Antares battlefield. We saw her last week be active in just Arena of Valor as a whole. Now this week she is active and available to play in the Valor series.
I actually have been almost exclusively playing Annette, and I got to play a little bit of the Switch as well. And they're both great, both the character and the console version of the game.
And not only that, but if you like Arena of Valor, if you like specific heroes, well, now you have an opportunity to play not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but all 5 on the same team. Let's check out the newest mode on Arena of Valor, Clone Clash.
Yes!
You get it! You
so many cracks!
Your dream, it finally's come true!
Yes!
That's right, Clone Clash is not yet available on Arena of Valor, but stay tuned. We will let you guys know when that is up and available. And
You're
you guys,
so happy.
I am!
He's so thrilled. This big grin on his face. He's like, 5 cracks, let's go!
We'll let you know
Not
when that
enough cracks.
happens. Maybe we'll record a reaction video of TJ playing it for the first time. And what are you?
It's not a bad idea.
Are you excited?
The only downside is I can't guarantee the other team's also going to play all Grack. So...
Imagine 10 Gracks on the field at once.
I am. I have been. I've always had that in my imagination.
The wheels are turning, but now that he's got the excitement and all of the elaboration, not elaboration, I wanted to say energetic attitude. All right, you know what? Forget it. Let's talk about the regions. Let's talk about what we're going to see today. 3 regions. We find ourselves with 6 best of 2s. It is going to be down to the wire now because every single game matters. And which ones are you most excited for, guys?
I'm stoked for Geo Esports versus Pain Gaming in the Latin American region because those are the #1 and #2 teams. So frankly, either way it goes, we've probably crowned our champion given the number of games left.
Yeah, it's going to be super exciting. I'm also looking forward to the EU region. EU region as a whole is going to be really exciting, but Dead Rabbits, Nova as well, both teams that started out really hot, but have had sort of different trajectories over the course of the season. I feel like this is really a turning point for Dead Rabbits.
Well, not only that, but we have all of the exciting things to bring you each and every week. We've shown you all of the awesome content. Well, now we want to give you guys an opportunity to get things into the hands of you right about now. That is in the form of giveaways, Europe, North America, and Latin America. Remember, these are region locked, so please, every week we've reminded you, if you're in the region, put it in the code for the region.
The region lock, guys.
I was just waving at the regions.
Okay, specific put it for your specific region. It's good. Okay, we're done.
Yes.
We're done.
We've been giving away trial cards. We've been giving away gems. We've been giving away Arcana. Make sure you guys get those put in. In the meanwhile, not only do we want to make sure that we're giving you guys great things, but we want something in return. More importantly, we want your thoughts, your predictions, as well as everything that you think about the Valor series. Head over to Twitter. Use the hashtag Valor series. Let us know your thoughts, and we can share some of those on broadcast.
Those codes aren't free. You need to give us your tweets. This is an exchange based on value.
That is payment.
Can we say that?
Probably not.
No.
We're going to get yelled at. It's okay.
I appreciate the enthusiasm, though, TJ. Actually, though, tweet at us, because if they're really funny or spicy or interesting, we'll on the show?
Only a certain level of spice. I only like a 3 out of 5 on the spice scale.
Scoville
I don't
scale.
actually like going to the
Measuring spice is on the Scoville
They do.
scale.
There's actually restaurants that tell you what spice
Doesn't it go
do you
up to
want.
like hundreds of thousands? Isn't it like a
Oh, yes.
ridiculous scale?
All right. We'll talk about spice later. We're going to show some spice with some games, but in the meanwhile, let's talk about the spice of what we have up. Team Queso versus Existence. Now, Dead Rabbits versus Nova is a match I know you're excited for, but we have to talk about the first one, the spiciness. How spicy is Team Queso going to be in this match versus Existence?
This is actually a hard match to rate on the Scoville scale because it's a mystery box. It is two Spanish teams, which historically leads to very interesting matchups. It is Existence, who've looked very strong until they just hit a brick wall of literally every good team in the Valor series the last 3 weeks. And it is Team Queso, who looked really good coming into the Valor series, but haven't really been able to follow up.
Yeah, Team Queso was one of only 2 teams in the region not to make any roster changes. They decided these were our 5 guys. This is who we're going to stick it out with. I respect that, but they need to step up this week. They need to prove that they're, this is the squad that's going to bring them to success, and it starts here with Existence.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about these rosters specifically. We've got Team Queso. Now, these are names on the roster that we have seen kind of rise as well as fall in just as equal of an instance. Who are you most excited to see hopefully stand up today?
Ruiz! He was insane over the last few weeks, particularly on Raz. I want to keep seeing that.
Yes, I agree. Ibuchichi as well. Coming into this, 81% involvement rate. That is really high. That means he is getting involved in 81% of kills, whether it be as a kill or an assist, which means that he is there for the action. He is there with his team. That is a very involved jungler.
Well, staring them down on the opposite side of the Antares battlefield is going to be none other than Existence themselves. You guys talked about Ruiz in the mid lane. Well, let's talk about who his matchup is going to be, none other than Mr. Bamboo.
Yeah, and Bamboo has been crazy over the last few weeks. I particularly like his Jinnar play. I know he plays a good Liliana, but when he's on Jinnar, he just has such good positioning. Normally, Jinnars really struggle to find full use of their ultimates, full use of their utility. He's always in the right position to capitalize, despite not having good engagement tools on the character.
The rest of his team has really done a good job of sort of allowing him to do that and following up. I think it sort of plays to that Spanish deathball style or pseudo proto deathball that we've sort of seen evolve over the course of the season. So Jinnar, of course, being a huge factor in that.
All right, well, now comes the time I know you all both enjoy or dread, whichever way you might look at it in some instances. Predictions. You have Team Queso and the roller coaster of emotions that they've been facing throughout the regular season, as well as an Existence, the teams that finds themselves on the rise. Who's going to come out ahead?
This is actually harder than it seems, because their record, Team Queso have 2-0'd Existence. That was one of the first games they played. So, just going off the Spanish regional matchups, it should be a Team Queso game. But based on the overall records of the two teams, it should be an Existence game. So I'm going to split the difference and call a tie.
I'm going to go 2-0 Existence. I feel like they've just, the stuff I've seen from them over the last few weeks, making some slight adjustments. They've really been, a team that has not been afraid to evolve, change up their positioning, change with their role swaps, and I think that they're the team who's going to take it.
All right, well, I find myself split on the desk. This is actually the first time I actually had them feeling the exact same way in every single game of day 2 of week number 5. So it's glad to see a little bit of a difference of opinions on my desk. But what about you? What opinions are you feeling today? Is it the cheese, or is it going to be the aliens from above that come in and wreak down havoc on their enemy? Head over to Twitter, use the hashtag Valor Series, tweet us your predictions and who you feel is going to come out on top. Pick ban phase is going to be starting shortly. Now, a point that I kind of want to touch upon, and this is going to be consistent for the entirety of the day, is now that we find ourselves in week number 6, the latter half of the Valor series, every matchup that we find ourselves with, these teams have played each other before. What sort of impact do you guys feel that's going to have on the matchups as a whole?
I think this is a very interesting one of those because so many of these Spanish teams have different results within the region. Remember, coming into the Valor series off of the Spanish regional cups, Team Queso was the predicted front runner from that area of the world, so I fully expect that they will look stronger here than they do otherwise.
It's definitely a comfort, they not only have so much history playing against Existence in those Spanish Cups, they have played against them. They had success against Existence earlier on in the Valor series. So, it's going to be interesting, though, because both of these teams have grown so much since then.
Team Queso already taking action. Look at that early ban out of the Raz.
I think that's very, very smart. I feel like Raz is such a highly contested pick for both of these teams. So I think getting it off the board, not a problem, because Bamboo, we know, also can play those highly aggressive, highly mobile heroes as well. And you mentioned, I think it's interesting because of how good Ruiz is on the hero, but I think it's more just getting it right off the board.
And what I'm excited to see as well is these teams, specifically over in Europe, are starting to improve their pick ban phase a lot in a sense of we're not just banning out the OPs, we're actually starting to respect the picks of our enemies, and that's definitely showing here with the pick ban phases. Now we see an immediate Malik lock-in for Team Queso. Existence now has an opportunity for the 1-2 counter.
One of the things I'm keeping an eye on that I think this Malik plays into is jungle control during the early game. Both these teams have star junglers who occasionally get shut down early. I'm talking, of course, about Blue Triton and Ibuchichi. Both of them like to play characters that take a while to farm up and struggle if they're shut down. So something like the Malik, who can play a little bit beefier towards the bot lane, is something to keep your eye on as a quick rotate to shut down invasions.
Speaking of beef, it really plays into this Crash ban that we're seeing here as well from Team Queso. But Annette is gracing us here. First
I told
pick.
you it would happen.
Oh, we knew. No questions asked on that one. Joining us very first week she's available now. She's been out for a week overall, so teams have had a little bit of opportunity to play with her. TJ, while we have a little bit of time here, walk us through how you think Annette's going to play out here.
I expect Annette to be played in a support role, but she is flexible. I could absolutely see a team pushing her in a lane. The major thing about her is that if you play her well, what she can do is constantly be able to break up fights in a similar way to Scud, and then poke down the fights in a similar way to Liliana. She can hover at the back and do big, good damage with her CC as well, especially if she builds Frosties early. Her big AoE slows are certainly significant. And then if the fight develops badly, or if you simply want to reposition people underneath the tower, you can use that Hurricane Wall ultimate to blast them that way.
Speaking of Hurricane Wall, obviously it functions a little bit similarly to Wild Beast Fury, but it doesn't function well with Exuberance, because obviously Exuberance wants everyone to go together. So I think that's interesting. We'll talk about that more in a bit. Pura and Slim's coming out as well for Team Queso here. A lot of CC, a lot of lockdown from them. I love the fact that they're denying the Pura. So if Annette was potentially going to be running a side lane, you don't have that Pura Jinnar.
Now you also have your think about the changes in the jungle as we're starting to see that shift. I know TJ has been predicting for a while the assassins that have found themselves coming in. Kriknak is locked in immediately now for Blue Triton and the rest of his team. Arduin seems to be the hover as we see here for Existence, and I'm liking to see what we have with this Kriknak.
The Kriknak will probably be locked in for his burst damage. They have a Pura with no strong AoE backup yet, which means it's kind of going to be difficult to discourage the dive onto the Pura. If Blue Triton gets out far enough ahead on this Kriknak that he can just one-shot the Pura, there is no way to set up these fights.
However, a good way to keep that Pura alive, of course, would potentially be that flash that the Cyclone goes, I mean, it could potentially go okay, or the counter initiation on the respective backline of Existence. But however, how it's looking now, looks like there's going to be a lot of just all-out engage from them.
And it's interesting to see the lack of Omen priority that we have now shifting with the meta. Flash does get locked in. Omen finds himself as 100% pick ban, one of the three that is 100% pick ban over in Europe. Next to, you have, excuse me, next to Omen, as well as Valheim and Ibeneth, doesn't find themselves on. It looks like Zenial instead is going to be the hover and potentially the lock-in now. So it is all dive all the time.
The last pick for Existence will need to be a split lane, so there is still chance unless you're running. I suppose you could run an extra support and put the Annette in lane, but we may still see the Omen here. I'm not actually sure if it's great in this matchup. Against the Zenial, it's strong. But overall, when you look to team fights, I'd actually be wanting to pick up a little bit more HP over on the Existence side.
I worry about this Existence composition a little bit, though, because you're going to have prime positioning from Slim specifically in the jungle, because there is such a beefy front line. You've got a great sustain on the side of Team Queso, but if you look at just the raw damage of Existence, they're going to have to survive this frontal wave of damage from Existence before they can find themselves in a victory.
I think it's very much more of a late game composition here from Existence. They have a lot of lightweight damage potential, and if they can consistently burn down the Pura at the start of these fights, it's going to be very difficult to find a solid engage from Team Queso, because aside from the Slims and Pura, they don't have a whole lot of initiation and the skills to trap people down. So if you see early game dominated by the Kriknak finding picks, then as we drift towards the late game, Annette is going to be very strong with the Yorn. They'll have a whole bunch of CC and re-initiation tools, and they'll dominate those fights. I
love the way that Existence's draft is functioning, the way in terms of ramp. You've got a mid-game threat in that Kriknak. He's going to be coming online, finding his farm, but then as we see in the Yorn as well, having that side lane marksman help carry into the late game should they go there. There is a very clear order of operations, though, on the other side from Team Queso. It's the Cyclone into the Shock. The Zenial can come in there as well. There's the Malleus, the CC chain, the Slims as well as there. If they can execute this combo in any way, way, shape, or form, they're looking good.
And I want to see Team Queso take the initiative at the beginning of this game. They do have a strong roaming composition. You think about the skirmish, there are 2, 3, 4 heroes coming through the jungle. They have players that are willing to battle. You think about Ibichichi, you think about their other members. They're willing to battle, they're willing to brawl, but it requires them doing so in the earlier stages of the game, because you're right, and I think this is a point that you are really heveling as the potential win condition. The scaling of existence and the team fight that they have in the later stages, I think, could overwhelm Queso if they have a slow start.
And I also think Queso traditionally are bullied in the jungle. That's kind of interesting because Blue Triton has kind of suffered that same fate as of late. So I want to see if both these teams play a little bit more passive. That may happen given their past predilections, and if it does, I do think Existence win.
Do we find ourselves with an opportunity with this flash pickup? It's something I want to touch upon. That's something I really want to think about when we get into this, because that mid matchup was one of our key points coming into this game. But the game does find itself at the beginning. Both teams find themselves loaded onto the battlefield. Team Queso has had a roller coaster of emotions thus far in the season. They're looking to come out on top against a surging Existence.
Will Existence have enough here, or will Team Queso shake the slump? Both of these teams have a lot to prove coming into this. Their last few weeks of play have not been super stellar, so we'll keep an eye on that here. We talked about aggression in the early game. Both of these teams have struggled, so we're either going to see high passivity, or one of these teams is going to learn their lesson and realize, look, early game aggression is good.
And one of the things I'm looking for to build that is this Annette pick. They're running it on Chickerton, their support player as predicted, and he'll likely just be roaming like a traditional support. Unlike a traditional support, though, Annette does have high damage potential, particularly towards the late game. She can combo very well, and she can find big damage. I've been running her mid lane occasionally just for kicks, and it totally works.
Well, when she originally came out, that's sort of it. She's sort of this flex support mid-roll. She's a classic mage. She has a lot of good CC. She has a lot of good poke. And her range on her auto attacks as well even does quite well. Look at how much damage she's instantly able to put out just with one spell.
Yeah, it scares back the noob. The fun, actually, thing about that first ability, the Gust Force, is in the middle of it, there's an increased damage potential. So if you're standing dead center, you're taking, I think, 20% more damage than if you're just in the overall AoE. So it's got a little bit more skill than just in AoE, and if you can combo with stuns, you can burn people down in the early game.
And she has an innate combo with her kit as well. If you combine that with her second ability, pulling them back, the second hero that you hit or the second target that you hit, including minions, you actually trigger that stun. So if you can combine that with that Gust Force, that is actually a fun little combo that you can pull off by yourself, and good setup for the rest of her team. But combining that with something like an Arduin or a Cricknack, that's fantastic.
I certainly can't wait to see how she performs. Now, an early target we highlighted was the noob. We're going to have to see if this Pura gets shut down not only in the early game, but in team fights. As we position for this Abyssal Dragon, if his Nature's Rally comes up, he's going to be very difficult to scare off of these objectives.
The noob is actually one of my most improved players over on the side of Team Queso. He has progressed so far overall in the Valor series. I'm really excited to see how he has continued to progress here. This is a very slow initial dragon starting off right now, but the noob having that healing light will help sustain Team Queso through this just a little bit longer. Great positioning from Existence though, pulling this back, and it is going to be the pickup there. Jauki is going to be the target. The heal is being popped to get him alive, and now the flank as Bamboo is going in. That is a nice little disengage. The noob is going to be the target as Blue Triton is going to pick him up. Nicely done, Ruiz, with that tornado, or Cyclone, I should say, was not enough, but a re-engage from Yavix to try and get his team out, and a great counter kill.
I'm not sure how I feel about that, actually. I think the noob is still a big enough trade that that's worth it, but it almost went badly wrong, and it was Bamboo's choice to re-engage using the exuberance that scares back the entire team fight. That Cyclone is forced to be used defensively from Ruiz, and all that does is split the fight, allow the noob to be focused out by the dive from Blue Triton, who understands his priorities.
Blue Triton, of course, on that Cricknack. His job is to get into the backline, be that disruption, be that assassin, and in these late game fights, allow Roids, allow this Yorn to be the true damage dealer. So watch for that. I talked about the Cyclone in the draft, how he maybe could be using it defensively or maybe try and split the fight. We saw what happened there when he tried to use to split the fight. It did not work.
Yeah, he had a lot of trouble there because I don't think splitting the fight is their ideal situation. I think in the perfect world, they actually want to use the Cyclone around as many people as possible and use it to concentrate the fight.
They do, because they want to bring them together. Yavix can throw the shock on top of that. We have Barbara who can come in with that Angelic Splendor, all the while the noob, the Nature's Rally, the Healing Light, they want to survive in that. I think they can actually trade in a lot of these outright death ball situations, but it's going to depend on Chickerton a lot, of course, because he does have that Hurricane Wall. His ability to split this fight will be, significant.
Yeah, and I look for the really good skill on those wind cuffs. That was what you were talking about earlier. Being able to lock people down with them is insanely powerful.
Speaking of lockdown, we do have the Nature's Rally being triggered, but Ibuchichi's going to be the target in the back, able to get him. There's Yavix with the shock, the counter kill, potentially going in here onto Blue Triton. Can they find him? One more auto attack. Yes, they do, but the noob is also so low. Barbara on the flank, barely missing that wind cuff as Chikitin there, forced to use the flicker to escape, and now Jauki is in real deep in the back. He's still trading with Barbara right now, but Chikitin's going to be the target. The flash is there to clean him up.
And that's the downside of a more squishy composition. Team Queso understand who they have to protect. In this case, it is the noob, and they shift Yavex over to do that primarily.
However, Jauki is still, speaking of the noob, he still wants this kill, forces out the heal, but the noob is going to be able to escape. All the while, though, we did see the Angelic Splendor come in. Roids had no way to stop the Zenio joining the fray. However, what he did find was a tower of his own.
And that is arguably worth it, because they forced the team fight down bottom. Angelic Splendor comes through, Barbara leaves top lane, and Roids can just find a free tower.
Finds the free tower as the Dragon is now being started from Team Queso, but Bamboo and crew are going in. There's the Exuberance, the follow-up, the counter shock is there, but look at the double kill in the back from Bamboo. Ribbon the part Ruiz is trying to get himself out, and that is going to be the Dragon going over the way of actually Team Queso during all that, so nicely done, but however, they're going to get quite a few kills as Yavex is going to fall as well.
The only thing that separates that fight from the last is the noob. He doesn't land his full Nature's Rally, he's shut down quickly in the fight, and there's very, very little you can do once that happens because you've lost not only major team fight sustain, but major team fight damage.
One of the players you hyped up in the draft, you're like, look, Bamboo, let's talk, I know it's Liliana's great, but let's talk about his Jinnar. His Jinnar play was sick. He found the key backliners that he needed to find, and he erased them.
Being able to just come in like that, he always does this at the perfect side angle. Knowing, okay, they've already spent their initiation, they have no mobility, I can just sweep through here.
He walked in like a Swiffer sweeper right there. He just went right on in. Cleaning service. I'm going to remove your backline. It's great.
I've already used the Roomba allegory too many times.
I was going to go to Roomba, but just forced me onto a Swiffer sweeper, TJ.
I'm sorry.
It's fine. But it's also fine for Existence right now as they are up 2K gold, and they're already looking towards some jungle invades up towards the Slayer side.
Barbara may have overextended.
That's the drone drop. Do they have another stun? They don't get him!
It was too late! They did have the stun to come through, but the Angelic Splendor still gets off.
And now Ruiz is looking to counter-engage. Barbara and crew are there. There's a Cyclone finding Jauki. Beautifully done. The shock, the follow-up. Chikitin is now the one in full retreat. Nice re-initiation there from Team Queso. What a misplay from Existence!
They allow somebody to slip through their fingers, and then they stay there and wait for the other hand to show up.
That was super solid from Team Queso. That just goes to show that at this level of play, one tiny mistake is all it takes to completely give up a lead.
And if you're running Chikitin on this Annette, she is not a support that can tank. They do not have very many tanks. If Jauki is not perfectly positioned, every single team fight is going to go like that. They're just going to get blown up by a wave of DPS.
I have to say, though, the barrage coming in from Roids, though, is doing a pretty good job of denying this push, as they do get the tower, but Ibuchichi is able to escape. So not the hold Existence was looking for there, but a lot of damage was taken for Team Queso on that push.
That tower down bottom equals things up around the Dragon, which is very important. Now Team Queso turn their attention to it.
Bamboo on the flank, though, is here. There's the follow-up. Look at all the damage. The instant deletion. The shield is keeping Yavex alive, or keeping the noob alive a little bit longer. Yavex is going in with the shock once again, and he is surviving. However, the Dragon is still the target from Existence. They're getting very low on this, though, and they're forcing the side of Team Queso back. They are going to be able to secure it once again. The flank from Bamboo.
He started that fight in the bush, accelerates out of the bush using the Exuberance. He already had the flank play lined up, and the kills come easily.
What a heads-up play from him. The decision-making there was solid. He identified where Team Queso was, where his team was positioned. And, you know, on paper, it's like, oh, why are they positioning themselves over there? It's interesting. Why are they pulling the Dragon back to... Oh, it's because he's sitting in a bush. He's in the perfect flank position, hook, line, and sinker.
It was absolutely one of the best team fight setups for a combo I've seen in a while. Having the entire team fight set up around the idea that you can bait Team Queso in to fight the Dragon, into that specific location. That's why they kited the Dragon up towards the middle lane. Then they have the follow-up waiting in the bush, because they know Exuberance is a team fight winning ult, especially with the damage reduction it gives on their relatively squishy roster. They need the Exuberance to take a few hits.
But I have to give props over on the side of Team Queso. The shocks from Yavex so far have been the only reason that Team Queso is not getting instantly deleted in these fights. But already, look at how much damage Roids is starting to do. I mean, they need to be careful. They need to respect the potential of this Yorn.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that scales so well into the late game for Existence.
Ruiz is going to go in, though. Wipe the minion wave. Existence, I like the fact that they are prioritizing pushing right now. They are not stopping keeping up the pressure on these towers. They've identified the fact that, look, yeah, we have a pretty solid late game, but one of the things we haven't totally been exceptional at is pushing in onto these towers, and they're making this a priority right now. However, I like to see that Ruiz is keeping up the pressure on Roids.
There's the Cyclone. Ruiz managing to stall out the wave. That's what we need to see from Team Queso. Unfortunately, as I said, they may begin to struggle as we drift towards the late game. The key thing I'm watching to scale well is Ibuchichi and Ruiz. If they both stay doing a lot of damage, Yavex gets very, very hard to kill on the Malik. Things can turn around. As of yet, though, they're just not having success in many of these team fights because they're being out-team fought.
Things we have to discuss as well, though. He's talking about late game tankiness. Yavex and Barbara. I mean, Barbara, his damage scales off his health. The later this game goes, he not only becomes nearly impossible to kill, but he also starts to do some pretty decent damage of his own. And another fight is absolutely going to be breaking out right now. Bamboo already taking a lot of initial poke to start this off. There's the Exuberance finding the background. The Reese is going to be the target. Ibuchichi as well. They're able to take him down. A beautiful shock, though, going in. But Jauki is still strong, surviving through this. The noob is going to drop. But look at how much damage they're able to do in return. Here comes the Angelic Splendor, keeping the team alive. An overextension there as Bamboo drops. Blue Triton now is in too deep. Where are Roids and Chiquitin? They're finally coming in, able to pick up a couple of quick kills as well. Yavex is the last man standing.
Team Queso take that fight so smart, and it still doesn't work. I think maybe Barbara's Angelic Splendor's a bit late, but as a whole, the second that ult comes through, Bamboo starts the Exuberance. They have Nature's Rally. There's a counter. They focus down Bamboo with the shock. It was very, very clever. It was what they needed to do. They did not have the level or goal, it felt like, to take that fight, because even with good execution, they just ended up losing the one-on-one trades to the now very high damage roster.
We are seeing that damage coming through in a big way. Roids was still able to sit back, clean up the objective, push on through right there, and still Team Queso didn't have enough, having a body advantage in that situation. I agree, though. The Angelic Splendor was just way too late.
Yeah, Barbara wasted, and I don't think it was his fault because it was a kind of messy team fight. I would have liked to see it come through right when the Nature's Rally was deployed, because that's the moment where you're bathing in Exuberance, where you're the tightest group of players, and that's what really it felt like was getting punished. Existence have a ton of AoE damage, particularly from their backlines, given they're running a net. So there's good follow-up if you can Angelic Splendor at that moment and reduce damage when your players aren't their most vulnerable.
Well, not only do you have the additional armor, not only do you have the damage reduction, you have so much at your disposal. Speaking of Angelic Splendor, forced to use defensively once again.
But he's been able to get away with it.
He has been able to get away with it, which is impressive.
With Jauki right next to him, he should not have been. That should have been very easy to shut down.
That should have been super easy, but talk about how the fact that Annette is not a tank. Well, Ruiz just unleashed a full combo, and Chiquitin looks like he was barely scratched right there. We have to talk about the passive of Annette at some point here. As the fight is breaking out, the noob is in a lot of trouble, able to flicker out. Ruiz is going to be the target, though. Yavex is on the flank, trying to take down Roids, but the tower does fall to start this off, and now Yavex is on an island.
Yeah, he's split all alone. He has to shock to safety, and he's shut down.
Beautiful play there from Existence, following up, taking down the Malik, taking down the tower, and staying alive. Ibuchichi has not looked super impactful so far in this game. They haven't been able to combo off his Flying Spear. They haven't been able to get these key picks. Now, once again, Barbara is potentially caught out right there. A little bit of a misplay there, not lining up those stuns correctly, but still putting this pressure onto the high ground.
I really like starting that fight, how they try and play it, but you just see Yavex get split up because the retreat comes through. Again, the noob is a primary focus for the side. When he's dropped low, Team Queso lose a lot of their team fight potential.
That's really the priority. Existence has identified it, and they are consistently executing, or at least forcing the Flicker out of these fights. Pop the Nature's Rally, but if you can't survive, force use the Flicker defensively, you're still not helping your team.
I want to talk about this Slims build. Ibuchichi has just completed both Club Sancti and Slick Sting. He did not have both of those items the last fight. That's going to give him attack speed and the crit, the damage to start really hurting. So look for the Slims to show up now in these fights, which has been kind of hard because, frankly, Ibuchichi's been a bit slow to build.
Yeah, he's been a little bit slow on his farm so far in this game. A little uncharacteristically for him. Watch Blue Triton, the jungler of the opposing team. He is not tanky at all going into these fights. He's got a drone drop and get himself right on out, but his initial burst is really going to be where we're watching this. He's building all damage.
Yeah, we've seen a little bit more defensive builds, maybe start with a little bit of an HP set. No, this is Soul Reaver into Rack Breaker into Fenrir's Tooth. We're going full DPS.
Into the shock from Shavix, trying to steal out. That Darkslayer not able to do so. Beautiful Hurricane Wall from Chicky to split the fight, but now Bamboo is in real deep. He's got to try and re-engage with the Exuberance. He's doing a lot of damage on his own right, but the team just isn't there to follow up. Will they re-engage? They do.
So much.
Roids is on the flank right now, though, trying to pick up the rest of the teams, but Team Queso actually rallies.
This is what happens now that Ibuchichi's doing damage. They spent so many abilities, and they had to kill through the Exuberance, but the second they shut down Bamboo, there is no tank to take their damage. The second Bamboo's Exuberance is over, there is nobody who can take the hits coming in.
That was also a 5v4 because the only person who could humanly take the hits is going to be Jauki on this Arduin, and he was not in position. He was split pushing during that, trying to do too much at once. There was resistance, not solely focusing on that Darkslayer. Cost them dearly in that fight because now they can't really do anything with this.
And Yavex, we were talking about at the beginning of the game, he's starting to hit that high HP peak. He's going to be doing real damage as well as he shifts towards a little bit more later in his build. This is going to be a scary Malik to find.
This is going to be very tough right now. The hard shot connects on Ibuchichi, forcing them back potentially. Ruiz is going in on Blue Trident.
Nice.
There's the deletion with the Cyclone. Beautiful combo there. And this is stagger deaths right now for Existence. This is like 2 minutes. They haven't had all 5 members on the field. This is massive. Team Queso needs to punish this, and a dragon has just spawned.
A dragon has just spawned. Existence, though, have been doing chip this whole time. And then Bamboo looks to punish.
He's going in right now, splitting them up right, though. That's the counter synergy. Chickyton costing his team dearly right now. The rest of the team is going in. There's the shock trying to follow up. Roids is going to be the target. The cleave going through there as well. Roids is being pushed back, trying to dish the damage in return, able to do so, but Ruiz is in the backline. The Cyclone is there. Jauki tried to split the fight, but Ruiz says no.
And they've been able to protect Ibuchichi every single one of these fights since that Darkslayer fight, and it's worked so well.
Ibuchichi is now hitting like a truck. The Drake is being spawned. It is pushing the Slayer lane. It's not going to be doing a whole lot because now the team fight buff is over on Team Queso.
We talked about it during the fight. Chickaton is a net used Hurricane Wall. That's the big AoE burst that knocked everyone away from the Exuberance. That was pretty unfortunate, and it's kind of heartbreaking because you can use Hurricane Wall very, very well. It's got a wide AoE, and the knockback isn't nearly as wide as the AoE, and there's a stun afterwards. So if you line it up right, you can actually knock everyone in a team fight in a single direction and follow through with an ability like Exuberance to devastating effect.
The first thing I saw in this draft, wow, what a recovery. Okay, look at this gold graph. An incredible recovery from Team Queso. The first thing that I mentioned in this draft was the idea of the counter synergy between Hurricane Wall and Exuberance, and we just saw it characterized there perfectly. Team Queso was rallied, now 13 kills to 12. The biggest thing was they did not lose a high ground tower, which means they don't have to constantly play defense this entire time. They've now been able to rally, and Ibuchichi has reaching his critical mass.
Yeah, and that's something, maybe this is what's been missing. Ibuchichi, as a player, is doing better towards the late game, and it's been a long time since Team Queso have had a long game. So maybe this is what they were missing when we kept harping on Ibuchichi not showing up nearly as well. Well, now he is for the first time in weeks. And this is the first game over 17 minutes they've played in weeks.
Well, you mentioned the fact that both of these teams have a long history of playing each other, and it's showing here because the back and forth is oh so real. On paper, coming into this Existence, maybe the favorite team here in the Valor series, but Team Queso is saying, look, don't count us out. However, right now I'm watching for Blue Trade, and you can tell he wants to go in.
He's hovering. Yavex, though, not your primary target like we were talking about. He's so tanky.
Gotta give props to Roids, though. These heart shots have been coming through and doing very good chip damage to start these off. However, Pure, of course, really good at denying that damage.
Jauki just bought Blade of Eternity. That's the resurrect item you normally save for your squishier characters. You accept they're going to die, then they're going to come back. I'd like to talk about buying it on a tank and the potential of that deep into a team fight, especially if they don't notice.
This is very bit strong. I mean, at this point, these players are pretty good at checking their opponent's items, but yes, there is a chance that they can think, oh, Jauki, we got him, he's burned down, he's gone, and then pop, right back up he comes, and of course, he's going to be getting decent value with that, actually.
Arduin's got so much self-sustain that if he goes down and comes back with a third his HP, he can absolutely get that up to enough HP to really slow down a fight in time.
But it looks like Team Queso is not going to want to allow that to happen. They see the Darkslayer responding. We're seeing a potential bush gank coming in right now. There's the Flying Spear. Disconnect onto Jauki, though, the best target possible for Existence.
Look at how they're lined up. They have a perfect line across the jungle so that they know if Existence leaves their base. Now that they have that knowledge, they're grouping back up as a team.
Both of these teams are setting up for what is going to be the critical team fight. They find the noob, though. Blue Triton not going to overcommit. I like this. Royd's in the back. Blue Triton is going to be the target. He's oh so squishy. We do see the shot going in, finding Jickyton. Great job splitting the fight. Royd's trying to dish the damage on the back. The reinitiation, they're going with the exuberance. The Nature's Rally is there. But look at how they're picking them apart right now. They're re-engaged from Existence. Barber is now in full retreat, but Yavix is there with the cleave. The massive cleave. Finding the backline. Ibuchichi jumping into the flank as well, finding the flying spear. Royd's is the only one left as well. As Barber and Juki are blasting it out in the back right now. But Yavix actually cleans up the fight. Ibuchichi, and they bring him back.
Ibuchichi saves the day. Team Queso wasted almost everything they had, and now they have a shot at the core despite it because of the actions of one man.
The minions are coming in right now. They're pushing in. Jauki is the only one who can stop this. He needs to kill the minion wave. He's going in right now, but Ibuchichi is on the core. They can't do it. That's the game. Team Queso win game number 1.
They say the definition of greatness is not in what you're capable of doing, it's what you're capable of creating after a loss. You think about Team Queso, you think about the adversity they have faced through the entirety of the regular season. Now they come back hotter than ever against a team that we have designated as one of the surging stars of the Valor series.
This was always going to be a great match. I did not realize it would be this great. The fact that we start and we see the first truly fantastic game from Ibuchichi in a very long time bodes very well for Team Queso, not just in this series, but the Valor series as a whole.
Taking a look at these stats, you got to give all the props. I mean, a lot of deaths on him. They shut down Ibuchichi early.
Yeah.
Him and the noob were the targets.
And he didn't really show up until halfway through the game, but that one team fight, at the very end of the game, he earned his paycheck.
I looked to you, TJ, at the beginning of this pick ban phase, and we talked about, okay, what are the keys to success for both of these teams? You illuminated on the fact that Existence needed to prioritize those 5v5 team fights in the mid to late game. Team fights are great, but you have to have everybody there. Existence put so many resources into ensuring that Juki was on the side lane to potentially stop the global ultimate of the Zennial. It worked once out of 5 times. I was sitting in the back room watching it. It was not the priority that they wanted. As a result, whenever the Zennial would ult and be in, it would turn into a 5v4, and you would have Team Queso having all of their members there, which allowed them to claw back ever so slightly in that game.
And some of those team fights were ridiculous. I was screaming in my head at Team Queso because they were spending all their ultimates. Ruiz kept blowing his Cyclone just like on the back lines. They were really sloppy team fights, and then they worked them back. Sometimes it was Ruiz coming through with major Cyclones. That last fight was Ibuchichi just going insane out of nowhere.
But it was also Yavix.
It was also
Yavix. So I think he was sort of the unsung star. You saw it, the damage there on the charts at the end. He actually out DPS'd Ibuchichi in that game in terms of damage.
Yes.
There was a perceived that last fight, everybody clumped. He would get these shocks, the key shocks to help reinitiate the fight and split. But his cleave, the one cleave onto 3 members in that final fight, literally changed the entire game.
The team fights are something that I want to continue to highlight a little bit more as well. We're taking a look at our AT&T replays of the game. Now, our first one is at 6.5 minutes, and this was huge for Team Queso because the members of Existence weren't able to get on a Barbara. Team Queso then re-engages, and they take the fight.
And I want to highlight now, Existence have already spent some major cooldowns, so when this comes out, they have nothing they can do. That Cyclone Nature's Rally combo works as intended. The shocks nails anyone who's escaping, and their somewhat lackluster front line cannot survive that, like you were talking about, because Jauki's on the other side of the map.
And this was the fight that ended the game.
Watch how many ults are blown here. There's Barbara's, there's Ruiz, there's the Shock. None of them find major value, and they still work this back.
Watch this, though. We see this fight, the fight split. Ibuchichi's able to get back, though, but so is the Yorn. It is Ibuchichi and Yorn right now, but watch as these go back in. There's 6 resurrects going into this fight, but that was the cleave right there from Yavix.
Yes.
It just deleted the back line.
And for me, a huge proponent of a lot of this disaster that Existence was finding revolves around Roids as well. They last picked the Yorn onto this. They spent so much time in the first 8 minutes of the game ensuring that Roids was on the side lane. They wanted to get resources into him. They wanted to ensure that he had the items to find himself that success. But once the team fights happened, Roids wasn't anywhere to be found. He was not doing the damage for his team. did not have the positioning and wasn't as intended.
The other big thing is Blue Triton is normally so dominant. You put him on that marksman in the jungle, he looks really, really solid. He plays a great Slims himself. He was a one-spell wonder on this Cricknack. He would drone drop and die. His build, having 0 tankiness, he would get maybe slightly poked 1 or 2 auto attacks. He'd be half health to start every fight. He's like, well, okay.
And that's why the noob was such a good indicator for the success of a team fight. If you are able to shut down the noob at the start of a team fight, then there is nothing to stop or to chain down the player who's just dove in and has no major mobility left. But if you do find the stun, or if the Malik shot comes through, they're gone.
And you can't also forget about one of our players to watch on Team Queso in Ruiz. He showed last week his proficiency on these melee assassins. You think about the Raz. The way that he was able to perform and assassinate the backline damage dealers on Flash was fantastic.
One of the things we had to talk about, though, start this new draft, because new draft, new game, maybe a reset here for Existence, or maybe Team Queso going to repeat the last time these two teams fought. Pura, gone.
Right off the bat, Existence have no interest in allowing that Pura through again, and I certainly don't blame them for it. The new plays so well on that character. They also get rid of the Malik. That's 2 of the really tanky AoE front lines that were causing so much trouble for this roster this last game.
No real surprise taking that off there. Again, I mentioned how good Yavix was looking on that Malik. Malik, again, doesn't actually have the highest win rate here so far in the Valor series. Actually, it's a pretty poor win rate in the Valor series.
I think Malik is one of the strongest laners in the game.
So for me, now looking forward to Game 2, I want to see, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this, TJ. For me, I think it's, you see powerful drafts from both of these teams. I do not see Existence or Team Queso failing the draft. Both of them clearly had a plan in place. They clearly were able to get themselves onto the power picks. I think for me, a huge component of this success of game number 2 for Existence superiorly revolves around efficiency and execution on making sure everybody is available for the team fights.
Yeah, I want to look at Existence's rotations. I think both teams occasionally flubbed how they rotated, but I'd also like to talk about this Annette, because sometimes I feel like people aren't quite comfortable on new characters, and that was one of those times. She was entirely built to be tanky, which is not a core strength of the character. I have my own personal opinion, but I prefer to see Annette players go for a few magic damage items, play into what her strength is, that she can do major damage, as opposed to exclusively building HP items.
Well, now we have to look onto what the present beholds for us. Valheim is an immediate lock-in for the side of Existence, as Crush seems to be the priority for Queso. But what does this leave open with the Zenio and Malik being taken away, as well as the Pura? Marja becomes a first priority for Team Queso.
I just want to make a note here, the fact that Existence banned 3 of the 5 heroes used by Team Queso in that last game. That is a straight up, yeah, these are strong, and we don't want anything to do with them.
If you want to beat us, you're going to have to change composition. You're going to have to change the complete style of play that you have. Marja creates an opportunity for that, and Teamy seems to be the hover. We have to remind ourselves, gentlemen, Omen, prior to last game, was 100% pick ban in the entirety of the Valor series in the last 5 weeks. That's a 38-game sample size. Has not been a priority in this match.
I think one thing to watch here, the reason Existence were able to get away with banning out literally everything that was played against them last game, is because they're on the blue side. If anything's let through, if, say, a Valheim doesn't get banned, they get the option to pick it, which means Team Queso, 2 of their 3 bans are just meta bans. They didn't get to do nearly as much target banning as I think they would have liked to.
I think that's huge here, because we know that Existence has a lot of heroes that if you, like the Kresh, if you let them get them, it's a game changer.
And you can see they would rather ban out Chicketin's Kresh than Chicketin's Valheim.
And that says a lot.
I want to touch upon this Teamy, though. Teamy being a first priority is something that we have not seen in Season 2 much as a priority at all. Does this fall in line with Queso's potential to counter off what they have of Existence, as now Existence looks to potentially take the Raz away? I stand corrected, the last 4 seconds are going to come through. It seems like instead they're going to lock in the Arduin as well as the Jinnar.
I think that Teamy is a very strong character if you're looking to run a more lightweight composition, like what Team Queso did last game. If they're looking to stay kind of squishy, Teamy undoes some of that in a very similar way to the Pura enables poke compositions. The Teamy means that if a player gets burned down quickly, not only do you have the stuns to punish, but you have the resurrect to bring them back up.
I mean, I would argue that Team Queso actually drafted relatively tanky in the last game between the Malik, between the Zennial, between the Pura.
You're right, I'm sorry, like Existence did
There,
last game.
okay, that makes more sense.
Yes.
But yes, I absolutely agree. A very lightweight draft was pulled out by Existence in that last game,
And
they were punished. And they had a teamie, I agree. If they'd had a teamie in there, the Annette just didn't feel super impactful. And I was never calling it that she had one okay Hurricane and then one bad one.
I think Jump's going to be very happy. We do see the noob threatening this Omen. We have Liliana over for the mid lane as well. That's going to give them a lot more CC. And the Omen in particular gives them a really good engage tool against any backline that's offered here from Existence.
Now, Lindis was hovered in the 2-3 pick by Existence. Seems to be an immediate hover again, falling in line with this composition. Now, we've talked a little bit about these double marksman compositions. I know you, TJ, you prioritize, you prefer rather the assassin combination when you have that Valline in the side lane. With the Mina and the Lindis that seems to be the hover, how is this composition now playing out for Existence?
I actually really like this composition. Because they have so much CC over on the Valheim, they can rely on, I assume that's going, could be anyone, running that Arduin. Then you can have a follow-up. The Arduin, the Valheim will be your in-gauge tools. Then you have a tanky character. They were thinking about a few run in that final support role. And then your backline is just going to be Roids and this Valheim every single team fight. And you can do so much CC, so much DPS. People need to dive through and get to that backline. If they do try it, there's already an Exuberance waiting for them. There's already a Cull to get back to that backline. It is a quintessential Fortress composition.
The Fox and the Rabbit seems to be the difference of opinions here for Team Queso. I prefer the Fennec in this composition, kind of to counter the point that you're talking about of the members of Existence wanting to come in and out. You can throw out that ultimate from the Fennec to potentially have it off as a counter.
The slow it offers would be really good. I actually really like the Slims for the engage, because you can go in with that Flying Spear, you have Blinding Light as well as a similar tool. There's a lot you can start a fight with, and that's what they're going to need to do. Stun out the front line, make sure you get enough damage onto the back line, then go from there.
And we also have to take in consideration the pick potential of Team Queso. This is something that we don't highlight as often on teams. With the Valor series being in the current state of the meta that it is, we talk so much about the team fight, we talk so much about the crowd control. There are so many single target damage dealers, single target stuns that you have available on Team Queso. This skirmish kind of scrappy style that we saw in Game 1 does play into favor with their composition now in Game 2.
Chiquitinez's work cut out for him here. His Chaos Protections are going to need to be absolutely perfect. Between the lockdown, you have the Death's Embrace from Barbara, the Flying Spear, the Blinding Light you're talking about. They have a lot of really good chain CC potential. The pick potential, like you're saying, in the early game from Queso is scary.
I think overall, though, I do really favor, I think I'm spot on. I think Existence are going to take the second game off of the draft, because I think they're a little bit of a tankier shift will give them what they need to not just win the late game team fights, but also really show up early as well, be able to lock down these fights before they can get started, and Team Queso are going to struggle, particularly if their team fights are as sloppy as they were last game.
I also want to pick up a point that we don't really touch upon very often at all. The talent selection for both of these teams. You take a look at what you have from Team Queso, you have a single punish and 4 flickers. They want to fight, they want to battle, they want to brawl, and I think that that kind of plays in the compositions that they have. You've got the double heal on the opposite side coming out of Existence. They're looking for that more team fight style, which I know that we've seen them as much familiar with.
It's a very Fortress composition. They have a dedicated front line, they have a dedicated back line to play behind it. If you can't get over the castle walls, get to that back line, you're in a lot of trouble.
All right, well, you have seen now coming into 6 weeks of play with the Valor series, and if there's anything that you've missed at any point in time, well, you don't want to miss it. You want to catch up on it, because the road to Sao Paulo is becoming ever more treacherous as each day passes. www.valorseriesesports.com, where you can find the schedule, the standings, and all of the elusive memories that we have had throughout the entirety of the Valor series thus far. We are getting ourselves into game now. It is game number 2, match number 1. Existence finds themselves in a hole, trying to claw themselves out against some Queso domination.
Well, my predictions are already wrong for this. Well, let's see if yours are going to maintain throughout the course of this series here, TJ. You predicted the 1-1. We'll see if X6 can rally here. Existence, I agree, drafting a little bit more tanky here. They have a very set strategy with this composition. The Arduin wants to sit up front. Chiquitin as well on that Chognar. And then in the back, Blue Triton and Roids, they need to be dishing this damage.
Opposing them, take an eye again on Ibuchichi. He, like I said, really began to show up in the late game of the last game, but it was only in the late game of the last game, and that reflected in his stats. Despite his stellar performance, it was only for 10% of the game, and though it was the 10% that won them the game, that's nothing like what we've seen Blue Triton do.
Blue Triton traditionally, he's been scary as well, but yeah, Ibuchichi, really watching for him here as well. On that Slims, this is gonna be interesting. How he can land these flying spears, I think, is gonna be indicative, especially in the early game, of how Team Queso can play this out.
Well, I'm also looking to his scaling. One of the few characters in the game that scales damage to who they're hitting is Slims. With his ultimate, he becomes a percentage damage-based character. That's very important for this composition, given how tanky Chikitin and Jauki in particular are going to get towards the late game.
I'm really watching for Jauki. Arduin, he becomes so difficult to take down with all the shields, the mobility, the stuns, the CC that he's going to offer with his ult. It's going to be difficult, so really, got to watch towards Ibuchichi here. But Yavix as well. His play in that last game was phenomenal. Playing on someone like Marja, mixing things up a little bit. I think it's going to be very indicative here of their play. So now get towards this dragon.
Existence already setting up for it. Now, they don't want to take the dragon yet because their characters become more powerful as time goes on. So what they want to do is keep Jauki up here, cut wave, have him rotate the long way around, and that's why they just reset the dragon. Now, as Jauki arrives, they'll go for the proper team fight into the dragon tank.
That was actually a really solid play from Existence right now, having him rotate down here way ahead of this Omen, who is pretty mobile in his own right, but they're actually not overcommitting to this here. I kind of thought they would want to look for this engage when they knew they had the body advantage. They are starting the Abyssal Dragon right now, but watch for the Noob. We do have the fight breaking up between the two side laners, but the Noob is going into the back. Bamboo popping an early Exuberance, though not really finding anyone, and now
Nice.
TB is caught way out of position. The Ghost Walk is there as well, and we do see the Dragon being leashed, but that was Team Queso losing a key member.
This Omen was completely interrupted. They decided they didn't want to run the risk of the Omen being able to pick and choose his targets, so they waited, stalled him out on the rotate, then go for the fight. Now he's arriving, but Jauki has already been whittling away, which means he's not going to be able to contest the dragon and Existence surgically take that first gold burst.
That, despite the fact that Jauki did not make an appearance in that fight, you nailed it. He kept Barbara back. There was no chance for him there. That was just really phenomenal individual 1v1 play there. And it just goes to show that even in this early game, Chikitin is already so tanky. He took the full chain CC combo from Ruiz and Ibuchichi, and he walked away.
Yeah, you pointed it out. You're a little bit alarmed. I can see it in your face. I wasn't worried. He's a Jognar. He can take that.
He can take it.
And also, as a Jognar, with his Shockwave, he's CC immune, which means it's less effective on him because he can leave whenever he wants.
He has that choice. But he was doing a really good job of just, stealing the attention of Team Queso, which meant that they weren't able to take down the key damage dealers. The first dragon did go over to Existence. It's going to be a nice little gold lead for them to start this game, as they're coming into it once again with that gold lead. However, we know if any team's going to rally, it's going to be Team Queso.
And I would like to say it bodes very well for Existence. We highlighted their composition as one which requires them to manage the aggression of their opponents well. The first team fight, they do exactly that, going so far as to isolate an Omen at the other side of the map, specifically so they don't have to fight him. This is exactly the play he did during the first fight. Jauki waits in this bush and then jumps out at Barbara whilst he's trying to rotate in.
Barbara does have the untouchable, but the stuns are still going to go through. Look at Jauki hitting the cull as well. Wow, this individual mechanical play on this Arduin is phenomenal. Barbara, on this Omen traditionally one of the best dueling characters in the game.
He's not won that duel. He's actually had to retreat all the way back underneath tower, and Jauki gets another free wave clear. He'll look to rotate back down now that he's assured Barbara has to defend.
Really, really solid play from him, the Noob. The rest of the Team Queso, we're going to look in here, going to try and snipe this out. Just a little bit too late, though. Royd's going to be the target. Nice dodge on the spear. That was crucial, but the Pooty Poots are going in right now. The follow-up with the blinding light, but Royd's is walking away as the rest of Existence is coming in on the flank right now. Chaos Protection early being burned. The Noob's going to be the target. Being a bro is going off right now, so he's going to respawn. The flying spear as well hits Royd's in the back. This key target. The flicker coming in from the Noob. One more auto. Can they find him? No, he escapes.
That was such a good rotation in, though. Chikitin spending the Chaos Protection just so that there's nothing that can stun up the Exuberance. Very good team play.
Really good team play, and it was the damage that Existence needed to chain that onto this key objective. They didn't necessarily need to get the kill there, because in the end, they did enough damage that they forced the Noob back and were able to pick up that next key objective. A really solid combo of not only map pressure, but then macro play from Existence.
Yeah, macro play. Again, let's talk about the Omen in that team fight, because he wasn't in it. Barbara got shut down, completely separated from the team.
Juki's just like, look, Omen, buddy, pal, this is your lane. You're staying here, right here. And Bamboo's deciding that he wants to be under enemy towers. That's where he's going to be.
And again, that was off of Jauki. Jauki sees the rotate coming through the contest. He calls for a rotate in. Bamboo says, all right, clean up in aisle 9.
Clean up in aisle 9. And now the rest of Existence is able to leverage this and push in onto the towers, having Blue Triton to just whittle these down really quickly. Early game Lindis, we talk about it time and time again, hits like a truck.
Blue Triton is still at that phase. We're pre-6 minutes. It may not feel like it because Existence have just accelerated this game pace, but this is the early game we needed to see from them.
And now they're able to get so much pressure onto the map because they have a Valheim in the side lane who you cannot leave alone with your towers for 2 seconds.
And this Valheim gives them the late game scale they might have been missing.
Nice.
Ooh, very clever play by Royds. He actually couldn't see the teaming and see the exact timing because he ran through the bush. So he had to guess based on the entry trajectory, which is kind of fun.
That was a really nice flicker though. I mean, it's going to be a pretty big cooldown burn there for Royds, but it might have potentially been his death if he didn't. So really nice play from him.
Absolutely.
Already seeing the Blitzblade coming online for the Valheim here. Watch for this full build to be coming out as well here. But oh, I love this positioning on that trap. Jauki tanking the tower. What team play from Existence!
And he actually stays there attacking the tower so that Blue Triton doesn't die to Death's Embrace. That is true love.
That is true love right there. And that was just a fantastic team play. Existence, I think they're really mad they lost that first game.
Somebody called Peter Jackson on the phone. I've got the plot to Titanic too.
What? Okay, we're gonna need to have a conversation about that later. As Chiquitin is going in, popping the Chaos Protection, Team Queso gets that first tower there. Chiquitin is going to drop, but he's done enough initial damage that Being a Bro does go off. Bamboo is looking here to clean this up the second time around. So they trade supports, but it's actually a 2v1.
Existence will have the bot lane control.
You're really gonna have to explain that to me later. If you'd gone with Peter Jackson and Frodo and Samwise, that I would have understood, man. Anyway.
Abyssal Dragon will be taken. Existence building complete control of the game. And now they're going to go for this tower, an easy pick.
Diving onto Ibu Chichi here as well, committing everything, including the Bulletstorm. Roids will live. With a scrap of HP, the tower falls as well. They have so much raw damage. Slims, why did you think you were safe?
Because you normally are underneath towers.
No, shh. Why did you think
You're right.
safe?
You're right. Bamboo's nearby. You're never safe underneath towers, and that is one of the strengths of Jinnar. Because he's able to accelerate, if you're able to land the stuns underneath the towers, if you're able to trap people, then Bamboo could just come through as a cleaning service.
And that's really what we're seeing here. Here he has a super
Look
affordable
at that team play. Chiquitin realizes he has the Riki shot on him, so he actually runs away from Bamboo, running a separate direction so that if it lands, the AoE damage doesn't hurt his friend. Isn't that nice?
So nice. What's also really nice is how good the macro play of Existence has been so far this game. You call this in draft, though. They came out of this with a really solid draft, banning out 3 of the picks that Team Queso pulled in the last game, which meant that they were not going to be able to maintain the momentum, maintain the comfort right here. Also, the fact that Argent took the tower shots, the Blue Triton could potentially chase Javix under the tower. Oh, dear.
This is a composition Team Queso are running that would work for a bubble team post 10 minutes. They are not bubble team, and we are not post 10 minutes.
And we are seeing more kills coming in, or more towers, I should say, coming in. Royds is going to be hit by the Flying Spear, but there's no follow-up because so much damage has already been done. Pushing in every lane and looking towards the Darkslayer now, I imagine, is going to be Existence.
We are finally seeing major items be picked up across Team Queso, but I do really think it's too late.
Essence of the Wind at 9:30?
Yeah,
that's a little late, noob.
The noob has had a lot of trouble getting built, and Existence are about to punish that hard.
However, Ruiz is showing that all the while he's been farming too. He did some pretty significant damage with that. That's both heals now being burned for Existence.
Yeah, Ibu Chichi did just get Glove Sancti. Like I said, post 10 minutes, this composition looks much better. Team Queso, though, I think they've already lost too much.
They have lost, but they haven't lost to high ground.
No.
They haven't. That is the key. If everything else falls, as long as they have those high grounds, that's huge. That's a beautiful Death's Embrace on the Bamboo, but they're going to look to re-engage going in right now with the Exuberance, and that's a beautiful shield as well. It's now Barbara who's gone in too deep. The noob is in the back. He is able to get 2 up with that Being a Bro, but trading out as Blue Triton is able to use his passive perfectly.
Blue Triton tacks the Flying Spear so that Jauki can build the distance for the Riki shot.
Yep.
That was insanely good from Existence, and again, their team play earns them another fight.
Existence just leveled up between Game 1 and Game 2. I have no idea what, Did they bring in some sort of inspirational like movie quote coach? Did like Idris Elba? Sure, that's not who I would have gone with. But you know, did Idris Elba just like give them a pep talk in the middle between these two games, like canceling their own apocalypse right now? What is happening?
I like Pacific Rim references.
Really, I know,
10
right?
out of 10.
Thank you.
Roids has control.
Beats Titanic references.
I was trying to operate on your level.
Thank you. Thank you.
Chickaton will have the control of the mid lane, and this is what I like to see from Existence. They're leading off with the Juggernaut, or leading off with this duo, because they know that should any fights come the way of Blue Triton, Chickaton has the HP and the disengage tools to ensure its survival, and that duo can absolutely tank towers. Now they need a secondary duo to take towers. That's going to be Roids and Bamboo, because again, Bamboo has disengage potential using his exuberance, and they have a DPS with Marksman. Roids can burn down any towers they get close to.
And you talk about these duos, I think that's actually huge because that's how Existence is actually kind of playing this. They're breaking this big game down into small skirmishes, 2v2. They're breaking up these fights. They're breaking out this overall map play, and they're allowing these small individual interactions to really shine. And it's awesome to see because they're taking this game on a whole other level. It's post-10. They have this Abyssal Dragon buff, and now they're looking towards the Darkslayer.
That's why Chickaton's lingering. He has eyes on all 5 members of Team Queso who are doing an old Team Queso weakness. When CQ fall behind, they'll group up. They'll play entirely too clumped, and as a result, they don't gain map control. And as a result, their opponents have everything they want.
This is really nice now from Juki and Blue Triton as well. Juki tanking this, so no debuff is going to be heading over the way of that Lindis here to take this down. As now they have this Darkslayer here, timing this perfectly off the back of this Abyssal Dragon buff going down right now. So they are going to have the Drake to assist in these pushes. Just going to make this very, very hard for Team Queso to hold this. But it is post 10 minutes. They've scaled a little bit more. It comes down right now to Ibuchichi and Ruiz.
Here's the push. Drake summoned in top lane. Rest of the team is here for the engage. Chickaton will lead off.
He's going in right now, but where's the exuberance? Where's the follow? The Being a Bros being popped. They're going to find one, but there's the exuberance waiting for it. And Bamboo is going in deep. He does go a little bit too far in. He does fall, but he trades. The tower is here as well. The Drake is here. And all the while, you've got a Lindis and a Valheim hitting your core. That's going to be GG. Here in one more second, the Drake will clean it up. Existence take the game, and they split the series.
Sometimes you just need to wake up and get up. And that's exactly what happened with Existence as they woke up in game number 2 and showed exactly why they find themselves in such prime positioning in the Valor series here in Europe. Welcome back to the desk. That's the Existence we were waiting to see.
There it is.
Game number 1, I feel Team Queso really caught them off guard, but I kind of knew that was going to happen. Because that's what Team Queso do during regional matchups in Existence, especially if they're operating from the playbook of Team Queso have been sucking of late. Might not have been ready for that.
All right, well, I mean, what better way to say it than that, TJ? Congratulations.
I was going to compliment him on like your expert predictive analysis going into the 1-1 and it's the playbook of sucking. But you know what? They showed up and isn't that what you said?
Team
Absolutely.
Queso.
Why'd you give me that face, TJ?
During the rest of the Valor series.
There you go.
And Existence might have been overconfident as a result of that.
Now, you do still have to give credit to members of Existence that still have been showing some signs of consistency. Ruiz with 45.4% of his team's damage.
Woo.
There's only so much that you can do on that side, but you talked about him stepping up in game number 1. Ibuchichi, nowhere to be found as far as impactfulness in game 2.
And I think I figured it out. You know, when we were like, what makes Ibuchichi tick? Why is it happening? It happens after the 10-minute mark. 10-15 minutes, Ibuchichi scales well, gets into late game, but his Slims build and the way he farms takes so long to get online.
And that's one of the things is Slims is and we see it in other regions, we see it in EU, we see it particularly in LATAM. If you don't get kills early with Slims, the highest KDA here player in the entire game specializes in Slims, but they convert kills.
Yes.
They convert kills. Well, No Mercy in LATAM. Converts kills early, and that's the difference.
Yeah.
We did not see that here.
And No Mercy's team constantly finds enough early game picks, enough early game control to feed him. So he accelerates through his build. He accelerates through his build, and by the time you get to the mid-game, he's already at where Ibuchichi was at 10 minutes, which, by the way, was their late game.
Well, you think about how long it takes for these players of Existence to get themselves ramped up and ready to go. Our AT&T replays shows them already ramped up and ready to go, as the final team fight that we can see here shows just yet again why Existence gets themselves rolling.
This is Bamboo. You think you're safe underneath your tower? Say hello to my exuberance. Bamboo hard commits in and just scares all the defenders back. There's no way that tower stays up. They just have a couple of their players hang back, pay attention to it, and the game's theirs.
The thing was, is he waited for the being a bro.
Yep.
He waited, he sat back, he's like, pop it. I'm just gonna wait for you to pop. There it goes. And just like the trigger was flipped. He's like, switch, trigger, pull. Anyway, all of the analogies. He went in and got kills.
The light was green.
Yes.
And it works.
Green means go.
Yeah.
Green means go, but more importantly, it's the exuberance, the Bamboo, and the rest of Existence that walk away with the Game 2 victory, thus holding TJ's predictions true. Team Queso and Existence end the series at a 1-1 draw. Don't go anywhere. The Valor series will return in just a minute. We've got Dead Rabbits and Nova coming up next.
Week number 5 of the Valor series saw EU take another step towards the regional finals as battle lines were drawn and new rosters were unleashed. For our first match of Nova versus Alliance, it was truly a trial by fire. Alliance came into the weekend in a great position to elevate themselves from the bottom of the pack. However, the departure of Rez from the roster dealt them a major blow. Bringing in Bobby Cart and newcomer Cap just wasn't enough to break through the ever-present precision of Nova. Nova looked solid. With iFlex confirmed as their permanent 5th, they played standard and took the series 2-0. Our second match saw Existence taking on Bubble Team. Existence had been steadily progressing since their lackluster season opening and had a shot to crack the top of the standings, assuming they could get through the new and improved Bubble Team. Hallmarking the return of Rez, this almost for the Dream roster channeled the energy that made them the European champions. Game 1, they took Existence by storm, running the now meta European Proto Death Ball. Bubble Team took the game, only dropping 2 deaths. Game 2, however, saw Existence rally, with both teams drafting somewhat wonky compositions. X6 seemed to thrive in the chaos, but it wasn't enough to fully throw Bubble Team off their game. They take the series 2-0. Day 2 dawned, and it became clear that the roster shuffle did more to Alliance than previously expected. They were unfortunately unable to field a roster and forfeit the series to Dead Rabbits 2-0. Our second match saw the only 2 unchanged European rosters go head-to-head as Nova faced off against Team Queso, the team at the top staring down the team who came into Week 5 at the bottom of the standings. While you have to appreciate Queso's commitment, it simply wasn't enough to dethrone the current leaders, as Nova looked terrifying in both games. While Queso came out in good form, they were unable to secure early objectives off their kills. Nova was able to play from behind and cranked it up in the mid-game, securing the win. They learned their lesson in Game 2, trading evenly and not allowing Queso to gain ground. Nova clean up in a quick 2 games. Deciding Week 5 was not the time for upsets. We leave with the European region divided, with the bottom 3 teams still fighting to secure a spot in the finals. One of them will have enough to turn their spiral around. Who will it be? We'll just have to wait and find out.
Unfolds around me.
I'll let my fist do the talking.
Welcome to the arena. Arena of Valor.
We saw ourselves in match number 1, an exciting bout between Team Queso and Existence, and now it's time for our marquee matchup of the week for the European region. We've got the members of, oh, I almost said Geo Esports. Dun-dun, dun-dun, dun-dun. It's not actually Nova Esports, or it's not actually Geo Esports. Wow, guys, this is a great way to start the day. My mind is skipping ahead. I'm so excited for Latin American region, but I'm also excited for Dead Rabbits versus Nova. Let's talk about these matchups. Let's talk about these guys. Dead Rabbits have found themselves in some interesting wizardry thus far in the Valor series.
Yeah, Dead Rabbits kind of went from one of the top teams, I would say, overall, to a team that's climbing back after they hit literally every good team that they could face.
Yeah, they started off really strong. They were taking games off top teams, and then things started to reshuffle. Started to not look so good.
I think they really suffer in regional matchups.
Oh, yeah.
And then they've just been playing a ton of really good teams after they kind of had their confidence shook in regional matchups. So I don't think they're by any means out of it, but this is definitely a match where they need to reestablish that they're good.
Yeah, I mean, Nova has now, we talk about the idea of the kings of Europe, and they have really solidified themselves as, once again, being that top team here in the EU region, but it's not the same uncontested dominance we saw in Season 1.
Well, let's talk a little bit about these rosters now. You think about Dead Rabbits, you think about the ups and downs that they have found themselves in. There are lots of names that they've had on this roster that I want to highlight. Specifically, we cannot stop to highlight, it looks to be their substitute, Randoom, that finds himself on the roster today.
I think it's going to be very interesting to see how their sub plays, but we need to talk about Alex P. Alex P has been insane all season long. He is my new favorite mage player in Europe. Friendship ended with Shurka.
Wow.
Sorry, Shurka. It's not. It's just that Alex P is so dynamic. I love seeing...
He is so aggressive, and the way he uses mobility is insane.
Mobility characters.
He is just like, and he finds fun angles. I think that's one of the favorite things that he's always where you never expect him to be. He's like, oh, he should be here. And he's like, no, I'm over here, actually. And you're just like, wait, what? And then you look at him, and then somebody else blindsides you. And that seems to be how Dead Rabbits operates on a lot of these skirmishes.
Well, not only do you have the geographical.
No.
You said geographical. Not only do you have the geometrical wizardry of the Dead Rabbits, let's go ahead and flip over to the other roster, Nova Esports. And it was all the trigonometry that was done by iFlex because he was able to maneuver himself, get the computations he needed in performances, now finding himself on the starting roster.
And post-joining the starting roster, I think this team has looked so much stronger for it. iFlex gives them late-game scaling that they really kind of didn't have prior to his addition.
Yeah, 07 looked a little hit and miss. I think there was maybe he just couldn't quite play as much, and iFlex was clearly putting in the hours. This guy has been practicing, and it shows. I mean, we call him iFlex because he's the most flexible player in the league. It's the meme, but it's also true. Yep. This guy plays everything.
We're going to have to see how they do play out. Now, gentlemen, we've known about these rosters. Dead Rabbits finds themselves in 3rd place. They need to keep getting these wins. They do not need to fall down, because if they do, they will end up at that 4th seed, potentially having to play Nova in the first round of the regional finals. Who do we see on the predictions?
This is kind of a fun matchup, and I'm not 100% sure which way it goes. I was very tempted to call out, oh, this is going to be another tie, but I think I'm on the Nova Esports train. I think especially with the addition of iFlex and with the way that they've been playing, they can win this game easily. I think the ease with which they win, though, will be deceptive, because Dead Rabbits have some hard win conditions. If they hit a few different win conditions, they're almost guaranteed to win. So it may look dominant, but it's never quite there.
I think the fact that I had Nova as a favorite coming into this, but the fact that also now Dead Rabbits is playing with a sub, I think it's definitely in favoring of Nova, so I think they take it 2-0.
All right, well, you can see it, a 2-0 unified desk. Looks like Invirum's going off of his unfortunate loss in predictions in the last one.
Kind of threw that first game all right a little bit, so my predictions are pretty good.
All I hear are...
Why are you blaming the players for your predictions?
I just hear excuses. But what excuses do you have? More importantly, what opinions do you have specifically and who you feel is going to win? Head over to Twitter, use the hashtag Valor Series, tweet us your predictions and who you feel will come out on top. Now, gentlemen, the pick ban phase is going to be starting very shortly, and I want to talk about this substitute player for Dead Rabbits. Randoom is a player that did not find himself on a roster in the first half of the regular season. He was purely a solo queue player that Dead Rabbits felt like was a worthy addition to their team. How do we think he's going to play in now substituting for this game?
I think one of the biggest things to talk about is, and it was exemplified in that last game, was the idea of team play. While sometimes, I mean, also the fact this is great to show that just if you're an amazing solo queue player and you make an impact on the ladder, a pro team is going to want to pick you up. That's super cool. I think that's an awesome story. But at the same time, some bad habits can tend to be developed from some of these solo queue all-stars.
So we are getting word, actually, Randoom, this is a name change. He was solo queue.
Oh!
It's
This
solo
is
queue.
solo
Oh.
queue.
Okay, so we were wrong, and shame.
Oh, solo queue victim's quite good, actually.
Yes.
This is going to
Okay,
be
this
much
is
better.
just solo queue victim. Yeah.
Oh,
He's such a good solo queue player. Solo queue
Look,
victim.
Would you
Look,
say he's
look.
a solo queue good player, or would you say he's a good
All
solo
of
queue
my
victim?
points
I
still
think
stand.
he's a really good player, but he's a victim of solo queue.
Like you're a victim of our disaster on this analyst desk.
We're really bad parents, Jump. We're raising him wrong.
I know,
This
one of
desk.
them's sleeping over there.
He's going to keep like it on.
Sui is bundled up, and I kind of wish I was as well. Just
To be fair, he is
I'll bundle,
hyper
I will
jet-lagged.
bundle you up in my love.
Oh, thank you.
Aw. All right, let's talk about the
no,
pick
all
ban.
is the only correct response to that.
Let's talk
Nacroth,
about the
first ban.
Nacroth.
What?
Nacroth is the first ban. Ebeneth as well.
Vex. The
Oh,
Nacroth
yeah.
ban is Vex's good character. I really don't think it's worth banning Nacroth,
Oh.
but maybe you just don't feel you can
Now,
play into it.
we do have a slower pick ban phase. Dead Rabbits and Nova tend to take their time, so I want to use this time to talk about a very interesting point coming into this matchup. Compositionally, Dead Rabbits and Nova find themselves on very opposite sides of the board, and you feel that's going to be quite the advantage for one of them.
Yeah, so Nova actually have kind of perfected this assassin comp with iFlex running side lane. They go from an assassin comp in the early game to a fortress comp in the late game, meaning that early game they're going to be assassinating people, playing very aggressive, burning through squishies. As they transition to the late game, iFlex becomes their key source of damage, and he does a whole bunch of burst damage from the backline. This means that the Death Ball compositions that Dead Rabbits like to run work really, really well against the Assassin comps. That's why they looked so threatening last time they played Nova. Since then, the late game evolution has stepped up, and iFlex will come in to burn away their Death Ball compositions with a Fortress comp should we get to late game.
And something that I think Nova Esports does very well, which I'm excited to see if it plays out in this game, as opposed to what we saw in the last series, Nova is very good at creating this stopgap and delaying the game and allow iFlex, when he plays these ranged heroes on the side lane, to get himself farmed up. That is not something that we saw coming out of existence in Game 1 last time. I like Nova's capability of using this as a scaling opportunity.
So there are two good ways to shut down that Nova scaling. I would say solo queue victim, now Randoom, he could absolutely turn this round if he's able to really delay iFlex's scaling. Early game, look for that assassination potential he often runs, burn down iFlex, stop him from scaling well. Or also, you could see Alex P, if he gets a very good start to the game, he's able to play an all-star mage in mid, maybe he becomes the answer to the late game damage on a higher mobility character that is again capable of breaking through to shut down iFlex in the backline of these fights.
So I can talk about Alex P, and one of the heroes he's made a name for himself on is that Jinnar. And you talk about the Death Ball. Part of the reason that Dead Rabbits look so strong is the sort of evolution of that. But one of the things we have to talk about is the fact that the quintessential Death Ball that we saw at the start of the season and the quintessential Fortress that we saw at the start of the season and Assassin comps, they've evolved since then. We don't hard commit on these quite as much now. We've sort of, you know, we're a little more flexible. It's less all 5 members are going in. And it's in part because we're seeing Valheim and stuff actually getting through. And Valheim sort of plays on the edge of these compositions.
And we will see the Valheim come through. First pick for Dead Rabbits. Nova counter, it looks like, with a Mallet Pura. That's going to give them the poke to heal, or the healing to heal through the poke that comes out from a Valheim, and both the engage and late game scaling. They might need to back up, say, a really strong backline marksman.
I think that's good because Valheim in the mid game, early game he's a little underwhelming until he gets a few key items, but mid-late game Valheim is doing a lot of work. But Pura and Malik, once they hit level 4, these early dragon fights are going to be very difficult to deal with, unless Alex P.
I don't agree with this.
I
have it in my notes, if Alex P picks Jinnar and they're not going full Death Ball, Dead Rabbits are screwed. And I stick to this, and they do not have the Pura. They cannot go full Death Ball. They need him on a well-scaling poke engage character.
I think you mean
high
Liliana.
mobility.
I think you mean Liliana.
Or Raz.
Or Raz. Yeah, Liliana. His Liliana's really good, though.
I would really have liked his Liliana. I do not like the fact that they're locking in Jinner.
Well, they lock in Jinner. They also lock in the Alice, which we have seen in some instances against the Pyrrha, but I don't think this is the compositional counter that they're kind of wanting.
So Jinner goes in, pops the Exuberance, and everyone runs away. And they all also run away from the Hissy Fit.
The way
So
this
it's-
composition works in a perfect world is you throw out the Hissy Fit, you follow through with the Valheim CC, that double slow potential sets up for the Exuberance to clean up. Valheim, depending on how you're building him, can be very heavy on magic damage as well. That could be a very, very good combo. The problem is,
It's a lot of ifs.
Nova mechanically are incredibly strong, and they try and play very high mobility characters. Now that might be why Dead Rabbits banned what they did. That might be why the Nacroth was taken off the board early. That might be why their first pick was a Valheim, not giving away that they were going for this composition. And it caused Nova to lock into more static characters. They start Malik Pyrrha. They might be onto something.
They might be here, but a great way to shut down a lot of this, aggression in one area is going to be the Fennec. That Chain Hammer Cyclone goes down. They also have a lot of great CC chain going in now with the Ryoma, the Wailing Blade to follow up. That's going to be tough.
And it's more importantly the fact that Coco finds himself on the Ryoma. You think about the Ryoma picks that we've had in the Valor series thus far, a huge component of that are specifically revolved around Coco and his desire to play it. You take a look at Ryoma specifically as a hero, he hasn't found himself too much success. He's been picked or banned 7 times in the Valor series, only finding himself a 57% win rate. So it's nothing too crazy, but of the games that he finds himself picked upon, those all revolve around Coco and his ability in the early game, because now you also allow iFlex to get on a comfort character that he finds himself upon in that Malik.
Remember how I was saying, maybe the Death Ball composition will beat out the Nova Assassin composition. I think they agree, and that's why they're not running an Assassin composition. Thankfully, Dead Rabbits also had some innovation. They didn't go for a strict Death Ball, they instead go for a CC engage composition. This is what Dead Rabbits have done in the past. They do like to innovate in that way. I'm not sure I believe in this, but I see where it's going. I like the thoughts.
I understand the thought processes that Dead Rabbits are going through in this draft. I just think it's still a little scatterbrained. There's still a lot going on right here, and there's a lot of things that need to go right in order to line this all up. Team fights are going to be very chaotic, whereas Nova has some very clear win conditions. They can just delete someone.
I think that's the point that I want to touch upon as well. You think about Dead Rabbits and something that they need to have as a priority, communication and execution. Those go hand in hand when you think about team fights and you think about the implementation of a solid strategy. They've got solo queue Victim in subbing in now for their team. They've got a composition that relies heavily on well planned out execution, well thought out strategy, because if not, if they go in one by one, if they don't find themselves all 5 on the same page, they will lose these team fights.
I think maybe something to watch then is specifically the Alice. Let's go ahead and right off the bat say if Dead Rabbits win, it is off the back of an Alice. It is off the back of those Hissy Fits being on point, and they're always being follow-up, which is incredibly difficult to consistently do.
I also need to see these Friendship Shields come out
Yes.
perfectly, because that is a great way to disengage off a shock. The shock goes in, and also you have to talk about the combo that is the speed boosting an already speed boosted Jinnar. He is so speedy.
Yeah.
He is just getting right on in there. The Alice is giving him that additional boost. They have synergies in multiple levels. On paper, this could work, but I think Jump said it the best. The communication is going to have to be flawless.
And you also get comfort on the side of Nova. You think about power, you think about where power stems from. It stems from the ability to find yourself uncomfortable heroes. But what else does power come from? It's the power of friendship, as you hear from Enverum. And will that friendship hold itself any level of clout? We will hold that statement true, whether or not it be so. Game number 1 of our second match, it's Dead Rabbits versus Nova.
It's the Alice skin that I like so much. It's so cute. Okay.
You're right there.
I'm good. I'm good. It's just, look at that. Look, it's got a little hat on and everything. It's great. As already Nova is deciding that they don't want to play a passive early game. They're taking some cues from North America. They are all in on this invade right now, but Coco needs to be very careful. Already forced to burn the Flicker, the heal, and the healing light. Alex P, though, he's got the Thief's Mark on him, but no follow-up. Good steal, though, from Nova, but a lot of resources committed for it.
Look at look at iFlex, though, already opening up these fights, starting as the aggressive source for the team. I really like that. That is what you want on a Malik, and that's what iFlex was able to do so well.
Really nicely done there from him. I mean, iFlex started finding, he worked his way onto the starting roster. That is not easy to do, because we do have the Sentry going in there, finding the stun. The healing light is keeping everyone alive. Got to give props to Coco. He was able to, you know, he cleaned up one wave, was able to get himself back. He's now in this lane, but already so much damage being done for Nova.
So much of the jungle being cleaned up as well. There has been almost no opportunities for Dead Rabbits to get their own farm started, and that is really already hurting their junglers. Look at that Cricknack, the second lowest gold on the team.
That is not ideal. The only reason Valheim's doing well was because he was not in any parts of those fights. But Randoom's deciding, look, you know what? I couldn't find farm in my jungle, so I'm going to take it from yours.
This is my jungle now. Ha-ha! He's able to start things off well. Sizer rotating in to help him farm. A little bit of a leash aid, and especially if they can grab Coco here, this is a good turnaround.
Sizer needs to connect on the perfect stun, and he does so, but it's just not quite in time.
Grizzly Q also lurking as well, primarily for vision, primarily to stall. He can't really see himself going for a full fight here, but because of the Pura's regen capacity, he knows, oh, that was a nice, that was
Coco.
a sick steal.
Oh, that Wailing Blade was dope going in that, wait, did he do that?
He did steal
And
that.
he did it without punish.
Very, very well done. He opens up with the Wailing Blade, then he follows through with the punish. There was almost no way to stop that.
He didn't have the punish. He did that just on the Wailing Blade. That timing was sick.
Nova, I don't understand how you fix this.
Yeah, they just got so much all at once. That was like they took a dragon simultaneously. They forced a 4-man rotation or a 3-man rotation to that Sentry, and then okay, that's just bad things happened.
I was kind of like, okay, you could work this back, right? That's a really rough start, but maybe you could work it back if you play it perfectly. And then Nova just accelerate from there.
It was a nice dodge from Alex P. Avoiding the shock there from iFlex, but still Nova is keeping up the pressure right now. Ryoma is creep cutting. He is just putting so much pressure onto Glameris right now. He's got that Spectral Ire. He's able to life
He's
to the right.
2 levels ahead of his lane partner.
And he had to go back off the first initial initiation there. Poseidon, good damage being done there in the mid as well, but the follow-up is going to be there. Alex P is the target, the Wailing Blade, the follow-up, Angelic Splendor, 10 million years too late. There was not a chance that Jinnar survived that.
It was a really nice idea, and if, you know what, if they hadn't lost that early game so hard, maybe Alex P isn't level 4, and maybe he's able to survive long enough that they have a follow-up.
That is really, really scary right now, and Randoom is going in there, finding the Chainhammer Cyclone. One more auto attack, and that's going to pop right there, able to get himself out. Forced to use the drone trap defensive, though, still almost went down, though.
Finding it in the same way I find parking tickets. They're delivered to you. You don't really get a choice, and they're always unpleasant.
Yeah, you show up, you're like, darn it! That's not what I wanted. At least he survived this time around. Sizer was not quite able to pick up the steal there. Forced to use the Hissy Fit defensively. Coco has been so much of a threat. He has set up camp. There's a tent. He's built a fire pit in the jungle of the Dead Rabbits right now. He is here to stay.
And the fact that they're not able to get any jungle has really, really, really stopped their farm from building up.
That's kind of how that works.
Again, look at this aggression.
This is just incredible from Nova right now. They every single week, you know, I think what really bugged them is the fact that they started off the start of the season and they didn't look like the dominant team we were expecting. And I think that really bugged them.
And for a long time, I was saying, Nova, you're not innovating. Nova, you're not stepping this up. Every single week you look the same. You're using the same bag of tricks. This is a new trick. This is Nova going, okay, we're going full aggression in the jungle because we identify that as potential weakness.
Random,
and oh my, is it working? He gave up on life, Paul.
He missed the jump over the wall.
Yeah, he spent his horn rush, wasn't able to get over the wall, and he just was like, okay.
No, I exist in a chain hammer cyclone. It's still my favorite ability name, by the way.
I'm just gonna stand here and think about that for a moment.
Sit in the corner and think about what you did. Felt like Chief Pat on stage at E3 last year. Good time, I guess this year, but last season. As we now see Nova pushing in full force right now. That was a good stun on the Poseidon. We do see Alex P going in the Exuberance. Nicely done. Good initial damage, but where is Randoom? Where is the rest of the team? They needed to follow up on that.
Doom actually scared back. The Hissy Fit doesn't find nearly enough snare for the full follow-up from Dead Rabbits. That is still heartbreaking. The fact that they did get the start of that combo and then just didn't quite have enough to finish it.
I mean, Alex P was hitting hard. Like, Nova was really forced to back up right there. I'm like, okay, there you go. That's exactly what they needed. The Reiki shot almost finding Randoom right there.
Flying away.
He was flying. He was like, nope, I'm going to nope right on out of here.
This is kind of where you start to be really proud of that early game if you're Nova, because Dead Rabbits are showing that especially if they scale, there's still an opportunity to turn this round, but they don't have the opportunity to scale because of how devastating that early game was.
It was really nicely done there from Nova, and again, it's paying dividends for them right now. The return on investment is very high. They committed a lot of resources early to make sure that there was no comfort on the side of the Dead Rabbits. As we now see another push being mounted here, trying to take down this early Dragon Lane that's so important and so easy with a Fennec.
Oh.
As you see the flank coming in, but there's the Angelic Splendor. Alex P with the counter initiation, really nicely done, but still, the health bars are enough. Clamaris is going back in though with the Malleus. Nicely done there, peeling for his team.
Because he lands the Malleus stun, his team survives. Without it, they would not. Unfortunately, you needed Alex P's flank. You needed his perfect timing on the Exuberance to do more than scare them low.
I mean, Nova's starting off these fights really well, and then Dead Rapids is counter-initiating, but they're just not quite able to find it. I was scared. I had a moment of panic for Nova. I was like, wow, they're actually good. They're getting chunked right now.
No, Dead Rabbits just have, they're still taking the fights well. They still have the mechanics, the communication of a really top team, but they are not able to make it work because Nova outscaled them so hard in this early game. Fair fights are not fair.
They're not fair. I mean, again, this would be a very interesting game if Dead Rabbits hadn't gone so far behind early. But one of the things I want to point out is how fast Randoom just died right there. In the draft, they talked about the sheer burst potential of Nova. We just saw it personified right there.
Because they have so much CC, if you get tagged by one and you don't have a response, you're going to get tagged by everything else. I call it the CC train. And, well, I think you just saw why.
Yeah, it's the train taking you to this. Well, except the station is back to your base. Alex P, though, once again forced to use an Exuberance, and there's no follow-up. Use it to just clear the wave. That's not how you want to be using this Jinnar.
The fact that Nova, Grizzly Q in particular, are just able to tank the tower, use that healing light to back out. Once you're low enough, that enables half HP dealt onto a fairly well-contested tower is kind of devastating, and it's why Nova, I'm going to predict this now, are winning this in less than 15 minutes.
Well, they're going to be trying to find that win condition right now as the Darkslayer is being picked up, ripped apart by Vex right now, looking so much more comfortable on these ranged marksman heroes. I feel like he heard our criticism, and he's really been stepping up his marksman game. Doesn't need that assassin.
Yeah, and he kind of in the past said that he hates how many of the ranged marksmen are exclusively about positioning. In Fennec, he has an answer to that. A very good mechanics-focused marksman who's very much about being able to use your mobility well.
Speaking of mobility, Restless able to get back over the wall, but here comes Randoom on the flank. The drone drop is there, but just not hitting nearly hard enough. The Angelic Splendor is committing right now as Alex P is going in, but so much damage. Poseidon is hitting like a truck on Liliana.
What was that coordination on that team fight?
I don't know.
It was drone drop with no follow-up. Angelic Splendor to bail him out, fine. Exuberance spent because you feel like you should?
Definitely not the fight that Dead Rabbits wanted to take, and it's costing them right now as the Drake is being dropped. The high ground tower is falling right now. Dead Rabbits, they have a chance. If they can just get on the same page, and we talked about this communication in the draft, and they need to be perfect as the shock is going in. The Exuberance from Alex P as iFlex is taking the back line right now. Alex P is going in, but the healing light, the Nature's Rally, everything is on point for Nova as they are taking the tower, looking towards taking the game.
And we find ourselves right away with a Nova victory. They came out the gates hot. This is exactly what the guys on the desk were predicting. And lo and behold, we find ourselves with an explosive start to this match.
The way they were able to start that match ended the match. The fact that Nova got, I think, almost every single buff. Did they get every single buff?
I believe so. They got like 80% of Dead Rabbit's jungle.
If you get 3 golems, that's enough. If you get 4 golems, you've won the game right then and there. That's all you need.
That's really all you need. But I have to say, though, Dead Rabbits showed some potential. I feel like having a sub in this game. It was a low kill, quick game, 0 kills for Dead Rabbits. Not optimal there at all. But just, they had some moments. If they just been able to put it together, it was like a puzzle piece, and they were looking at it backwards.
So I don't like looking back too far in the past. I don't like comparing Season 1 to Season 2 too much because of the amount of changes that we have seen in the Valor series. But something that you think about a lot of these core members of Nova Esports, back when they were Team Noob, the reason why we applauded them at being one of the best teams in the entirety of the Valor series, including Allegiance in that list, was the fact that they were able to win games so quickly, so efficiently, because they prioritized objectives over kills. This match was the purest example of we're going to win by doing the thing, which is killing your towers.
The constant pressure around jungle kind of plays into that as well, because again, it's not necessarily about finding kills. Nova were not concerned with just getting kills. They were concerned about finding the pressure across the map, and once you cleaned out the jungle, there's no way for them to contest those towers, as we saw in the very early game.
I mean, when you start off with essentially disallowing your opponents to get gold, it's really, really tough to come back from that. There was some moments where Dead Rabbits, if they've been able to find those team fights, they had like 2 or 3 opportunities where Nova actually looked a little bit sloppy, where maybe Dead Rabbits could have come back, but
it all kind of fell apart towards the late game.
It did. Well, what late game?
Did you see those ult? Okay, the 10-minute game. Did you see those ult timings on Dead Rabbits?
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
That just got so messy.
I Jin R, but then I hiss fit, but then there's the Angel. Okay, so maybe I need to drone drop.
They didn't find themselves with the items that they need easily. It was to the point where they're walking up to the jungle creeps going, "Help me, sir, I'm poor, I need some money.
Give me a gold.
I would like some gold, please." And then they just fell to the ground, and as a result, it didn't work out into their favor. But now game 1 is over. Let's take ourselves over to game 2. Looking at what we see.
Game 2?
Yeah, game 2.
Game 4.
No, bruh, it's one hand. Don't be hating on my symbols, all right? We've got 1, now we've got 2, then you've got 3, then you've got 4, then you've got 5.
Whoa! Whoa! Whoa!
Surprise! Let's talk about game 2, though.
Okay.
Let's take a look at Dead Rabbits. If there's anything that Dead Rabbits is capable of, it's coming back from the grave. Huh. What are they going to do now in game 2 to potentially tie this up and increase their efficiency and get themselves a tie on this series?
Don't build your entire win condition around the efficacy of an Alice, because if you do that, then if the Alice gets shut down, you're in for a bad time. Also,
Alice? More like a loss?
No! Well, I thought we were over this.
I got burned on that on Season 1, all right. I got burned on that on Season 1. And finally it was valid.
Also, I think they need to do a really good job of protecting their jungle.
Where's my tomahawk?
What?
I want to throw a tomahawk
Why
at you.
What has Tribe been mailing to the office?
Where's
Why
my
does he have a tomahawk?
I don't know.
Chief
This is
Pat
not
mailed me a
approved.
tomahawk. Where is it?
The other thing they need to really pay attention to is their jungle control. Nova were able to bully them out of them so early, and for me, a ton of that came off of iFlex on the Malik being an early game frontline tank and damage source. If they're not able to shut that down, they're in trouble.
iFlex has become one of these players that every single time he's on the screen, we seem to be talking about him. And I think part of the reason for that is the amount of work that this guy puts in. And it's the amount of pressure that he's able to exude in these team fights. It's just like his presence on the map as a whole makes you play differently. But also, I have to give props because Coco was such a massive factor. His Ryoma, we didn't really talk about it a ton. He got some sick objective snipes. He did amazing creep cutting. That Zenio could do nothing. Clamaris looked sad in lane, but it was because of the fact that he was constantly doing that. He looked normally a team wouldn't get that much control of Slayer's side, but Coco, they both play awesome Ryomas. They're both great side laners. I get them confused constantly. Coco looked so strong. It allowed his team to do whatever else they wanted on the map.
Because he was able to find that pressure into the jungle the entire time, we saw the only way, and to his credit, Randoom did try, but the only way he could have conceivably gotten farmed in time to take fights was by hard invading the enemy jungle.
And it ended with him in the corner.
Sad and alone. Much like the rest of Nova were in the beginning of the season, and they've turned it around. This is a much better Nova, and I'm very, very happy to see them step up here.
Well, I think this speaks to the EU region as a whole because Nova has gotten incredibly better, but so have a lot of the other teams. Before it was like Nova was so far ahead of the pack that nobody was improving because they didn't have good practice. But now everybody's better, so everybody's getting in practice, and we are seeing consistent play. Look at the evolution of Bubble Team. Dead Rabbits, again, if they had all 5 members here, or if they had more practice with Randoom, they could get their communication a little better. This would be a decent series.
It should be noted they were making the right adaptations.
They were!
We saw a good Dead Rabbits during Game 1, it just never quite clicked. Game 2, this is their chance to change that up. Let's talk about what we've got drafted so far. We start off Marja, Malak, Pura, all banned for Nova, all good characters for Dead Rabbits. I agree with that. Posing them into the Violet, Crashed from Dead Rabbits, which is a little bit more curious for me, and I assume this will be a Yabeneth.
Crashed was denied against Nova in game number 1 as well. Violet, of course, this is directly looking over towards Vex. It was the one marksman who consistently threw his phase of marksman. His Violet was still really, really impeccable, so...
Could you make that description of his marksman play again? 10 out of 10.
Perfect. I mean, I don't know how else
How did
to
I
sum
see
that up.
all of your emotions from just your audio? How did that work? It is a Yabeneth. Dead Rabbits, no interest in that, as nobody should. This leaves Annette on the board. It leaves Valheim on the board.
We saw one Annette game, and everyone else was like, nah, I'm good. She's, it's fine. It's fine.
I think Annette is very strong. I think people don't quite know how to play her yet.
She's like actually, to draw parallels, her and Alice, to me, actually have a few parallels, because they're both mages that are high enablers, but I think Annette, in a lot of ways, is her own here. She has her own combo. She's able to set up a lot of her own
She enables
damage.
herself.
Yes.
That's good. We also have Nova first picking a Valheim, and I think that's very good as well.
Fun eye flex.
If you want to counter that,
Or
you
Coco.
need to pick up a very, very good side lane burst right now, and I'm not sure that that actually plays to the Dead Rabbits playstyle.
Who's left? Who would you like to see here from Dead Rabbits?
I'd like them to go for something wacky. At this point, their options are either go right now as full Death Bull as you can, minus a Pura, that's a little bit questionable, or go full Assassin. And I would like to see something whack from Dead Rabbits. They've done this in the past where I've been like, oh no, they have nothing, and then they just pull something new out of the hat. I want to see that innovation from Dead Rabbits here.
I would like to see some hyper tanky, hyper sustainability here from them. I would like pull out the Arduin, pull out the Zenio, or don't.
Well, the Arum is a part of that. We
She's
were
part of that.
calling for a bit of a Death Bowl look, and I don't think Arum would be banned as part of that, but the go for the Joker, I'm going to assume that's in the side lane versus the Valheim, is an interesting one. I don't especially like Joker versus Valheim because you get stunned out so easily, but he does outrange the Valheim.
But my question becomes, though, why show your hand on a composition this early? This is something that has plagued teams in the past. Joker is not a pick that we will find from the Nova composition, I feel, now seeing that they had picked the Valheim first. I do not see the warrant in potentially, or in showing their hand this early. There's so many other power picks that they can prioritize before the Joker even starts coming into play.
I think there's two schools of thought on this one when it comes to this draft mechanic. So Nova's already showed their hand, which means the Dead Rabbits can now pick their thing into it, not worrying about being counterpicked in that regard. However, if they were to pick up something like a mid or a jungle that has some potential counterplay, they're setting themselves up to get counterpicks. So now they're putting themselves in the second position where they can respond. I don't think they're maybe putting that much thought into it, but that is a potential response here. While I agree they didn't need to pick it early, I don't think the contested picks are truly that contested.
Well, unfortunately, though, I only went to one school. I didn't go to two, unlike you. But TJ, it seems like there's a point that they're missing.
Yeah, look at what Nova have just built. They've got themselves Liliana Omen, which is a brilliant start. Because the Omen combos so well with the Liliana, and then you have a Valheim as well to combo into and off of that duo, I think Nova have just won the game.
Heard you like CC, so we'll CC you like you see. Well, you're CC'd.
I see.
They see the CC. But the big thing here, again, this is what we talked about, is now they have the potential to counterplay because they saved that opening side lane pick. They now can draft the Roxy, which will outpush and outplay the Omen. So that is the counter there. It's still not good.
I don't think. Okay.
It's still not good.
The
You draft Roxy to win lane.
Sounds like you do.
They drafted the Roxy to win lane, but she doesn't win you games because nobody in their right apparently can hit an Agni's grasp.
Well,
Apparently, it's impossible.
It's such a short-ranged ability, and look at what already is there from Nova as a stalling, and look at what they have yet to draft. They still don't have their support. They still don't have their tanky characters. So what they pull out next can absolutely shut down Sizer, and now they know it has to. So this is a no-brainer. You go for a little bit more mobility in your backlines, and you pull out the Mina to shut down Sizer.
I really don't like this draft. I really think Nova have dominated it.
I agree. I think this is very clearly in their favor.
I do think from the conventional aspect, Nova finds themselves with a composition that can expect to see from a top-tier team. However, I still want to try to find the light in the dark. I want to try to find the flower in the flames of Dead Rabbit's potential draft here. Is there an opportunity for this composition? Because I do feel like Dead Rabbits came into this draft with not only a specific strategy, but more importantly, a specific hero composition, as we can see illuminated just now.
So they have good mobility on the Tulin. That's going to allow him to get to the backlines, do burst damage, and get out because his Lightning Strike is a dash as opposed to just high movement speed. He can get in, poke the Valheim, and disengage if all goes well. They also have two solid frontline tanks in the RM Roxy duo. That can take a lot of damage from the backline, maybe buy time for the scaling of their Slims, and maybe the Joker as well. Those two characters will do very well if they get fed up. I'm not sure if it can reasonably be predicted that they will, though, because this is a very fast composition from Nova.
Dead Rabbit's composition is really exceptional at getting picks. Finding a target, locking them down, canned laughter, into Agni's grasp, you know, into the flying spear. However, the one thing they were chronically lacking in Game 1 was tight communication, which is exactly what this draft needs. Yeah. So I think this is going to be an uphill battle from them. If they can execute it, there is a potential they can find some picks in the early game. But I think as a whole, Nova's draft is much more simple. Its win conditions are much more easily defined, and I think they have a better chance at executing it.
We saw Game 1, a team struggle with their communication and then turn it round, Game number 2. Maybe we're going to see a repeat. If we do, Dead Rabbits do have a path back, but it does need to be perfect execution of this draft, and they need to hold on to the early game, because what Nova have built, again, will accelerate quickly.
Well, there's a lot of maybes that we have to consider. Just like there's a lot of maybes that you have to think about, there's a lot of interesting points that you have to think about when you think about everything to do with the Valor series and our website. That transition did not go the way as I planned, but all the while, still find yourself out to the website. That's ValorSeriesEsports.com for the schedule, the standings, and all of the phenomenal video content that we have available for you. We've been doing the cosplay workshop. I know that's something that we're going to be having coming up more sooner than later, in an opportunity to see how Vicky Bunny Angel is catching up and doing that. But now we find ourselves on the Antares battlefield. It is an opportunity aplenty for Dead Rabbits to get their best skills. Hopefully they were taught the #1 lesson in Wizard School, which is spelling. Let's see if they find themselves a victory versus Nova Esports in game number 2.
Wizard spelling bees would be so weird.
Spell transfiguration.
Yeah, that's it. I got the joke, Jump. I got the joke. Thank you.
This is great. Nova are already playing very aggressive again. Dead Rabbits need to play defense against this or counter-invade. They choose the latter, and they've got some control of the bottom side of the map.
We had a big discussion about this last week about how the way to beat and invade is to invade yourself. Wait, you know what I mean.
In order to win the early game invade battle, you need to make sure that you're invading as well.
As well, there we go. You need to be the team to also be doing that thing. But Sizer, these are ravenous beasts. This is lifesteal, has been doing a lot of work for him. Finally, Vex is delivering the goods there. Mr. Santa Vex is
in order to deliver the presents, you need to present yourself.
I need a minute, DJ. Talk for a second. Woo!
Vex already farming up very quickly, especially on Fennec. We've talked a lot about how long it takes Slims to be farmed up. This is one of the reasons I love the Fennec, and I'm happy Nova are starting to agree with me because he's very, very quick to activate, and his early game objective control doubles that down.
Oof, very, as you said, very good to have there in the early game, but clearly Randu and Alex P are showing that as well. Tulin, someone you gotta watch for there. Liliana, we know she comes online a little bit later.
Oh, good movement from Grizzly Q. If he hung around, he would be dead.
What a different opening in game number 2 from Dead Rabbits. They are looking like a completely different team. They did not give up a lot of early, they did not cede a lot of early map control here. And now they're actually picking up a dragon themselves. The damage they did in the mid, they combine that. You don't need to get the kills.
Because they forced the main tank back, because they forced Vex to play back,
they can now do this. They've reset, they've picked up Abyssal, they've picked up that might buff, they've picked up a gold lead, and I, like you said, really appreciate this look from Dead Rabbits.
A lot better now, especially as Coco is going in. That was a beautiful spear there from Randoom, is re-engaging, but he actually went right back into the swipes from Poseidon. The Reiki shot to chase it down. The Agni's Grasp is pulling it back to the wildfire from Restless. Vex is on the flank now still, but that was a sick play from him. However, I think Nova is going to look to clean this up.
Restless thinks maybe he can grab Grizzly Q, but they kite him so well, and Vex finds more. He's now level 5.
That was the start that Vex wanted. Grizzly Q, more like, Grizzly, who are you going to take down in this fight? It's certainly not me. He looked so sick. That, oh man, that Dark Dominion was monstrous.
The fact that they were able to turn around that fight was beautiful, and it was mostly, I feel, initially off the back of Poseidon. He came through from the mid lane and found so much AoE damage against a tightly clumped Dead Rabbits roster. Yeah, it went awry because that Agni's Grasp landed, but I think it still earned Nova a path back into this game after a very rough start.
Randoom actually leaped back into that. He did not expect Poseidon to go back in, going in like we're seeing right now, but luckily Sizer is tanky enough to take the damage we're seeing Valheim in the early game we talked about. He's not that high impact yet.
And this is one of the things I was worried about. If Nova can win the early game, they will win early. They will win the game very quickly. Dino Riders, Dead Rabbits need to be able to get late game as quick as possible.
The other DR there, good old days, as we did see a really nice snare going in there. Grizzly Q, beautiful body block from Coco to absorb the Thunderbird from that. And now Clamaris is on the flank, though, almost lining up the snipe there. The Joker, the rocket from the back, that could have been huge.
There's the range on those rockets, and they're going to be a real threat towards the late game. That was one of the two things I highlighted as a way to shut down the back line of Nova. If you're able to get both Randoom and Clamaris scaled, things are going to go well.
That was a really nice play from them as Dead Rabbits is looking towards their second Abyssal Dragon. They clean that up with ease. So Vex, Fennec is normally a hero that is supposed to be, doing well in the early game, supposed to be able to secure those big map objectives, but now we're not seeing that at all.
No, and iFlex is in trouble though.
That was a beautiful Agni's. I mentioned how nobody could seem to.
He flickers underneath the tower whilst he's in Agni's Grasp to make sure there's no way iFlex gets back to safety.
This is the best Roxy play that we've seen maybe ever. Restless is clearly showing that his prowess on this hero is near absolute. As despite his, that one early death, he was able to do so much in that. He saves the fight, in fact, for Dead Rabbits.
And that was one of the X factors I don't think I was really expecting from this current iteration of the Dead Rabbit squad. Because they have a Roxy doing so well, they have so much less that they need to worry about. This Omen hasn't ever been able to chain down their backlines, and they've always had an extra source of both damage and frontline tank during these fights.
I've often criticized the Roxy pick. She's like, oh, you're just going for the early game win, but no, she's actually been having the high impact in these team fights that we need to see. Restless is really impressing me right now and is keeping Dead Rabbits in this game in a big way. I should say keeping them in the game. They're actually ahead in gold right now against Nova.
Yeah. And Nova Esports, remember, I set them up as an early game win comp, so if they start falling behind here, I think the odds go much, much higher that Dead Rabbits are able to work something out. iFlex is the player to watch now. How he builds, how he succeeds or doesn't on this Valheim may well decide the rest of this game.
Oh, perfect timing there from Dead Rabbits, the Agni's Grasp. I don't think he's missed one yet this game. Absolutely flawless play from Restless so far in this game. What is happening? Dead Rabbits is firing on all cylinders, picking up these key targets as double marksman for Nova, and they are showing that, look, like, we're going to need to get hyper late if we have any chance in this one.
Poseidon and iFlex, and you can see I've extended the players to watch because iFlex is having a very rough time. So yeah, maybe pay attention to Poseidon as well. He needs to be a major source of damage.
That was a great pull over the wall, finding Randoom though. That is the major source of damage there in the back. We do have the chain hammer cycle going in, but somehow Restless survives. There's the snare going down on the Vex right now, but Sizer is caught way out. Clamaris is in the back dishing good damage, and Sizer surviving for so long. The lifesteal in the midst of all his foes. The Reiki shot will clean him up though.
There's that trademark Nova coordination playing out during the fight to keep them safe. They're able to chain back the attacks, kite them back, follow with stuns, and shut them down with the Reiki shot.
The aggro juggle was impeccable, and all the while Vex is now soloing it. That was just impeccable play from Nova. They grab a dragon in unison as well. What looked like a great fight from Dead Rabbits was. Just Nova was a little bit better.
I'm really kind of missing the performance of iFlex during game 1. I felt like his early game map presence was why they got such a good start, why they were able to win all the fights because he was on the Malik and they had a little bit of early beef. Without that, I think they're really struggling. Like that initiation they just ran away from. If they have a frontline tank, it's not even scary.
One of the things right now about Nova is they've realized that, look, we haven't had the best start here. We don't want to. We want to claw our way back in this the smart way. We don't want to throw and build or follow up on any momentum that Dead Rabbits is building for themselves right now, because we have quad marksmen in this game right now. This is very. We never see this. This is the meta.
And I really enjoy it because I think they play counter to each other. None of these marksmen are particularly vulnerable to assassin dives, so you do need to go for this.
And speaking of going for the dive, there's Grizzly Q, finds all 3 members, and there's the follow-up as well. Poseidon is going in. The snare finding Grizzly Q, but not an ideal target, and now Rest is in the back. He's finding the Agni grasp of Poseidon, but he's able to get himself out. And now we see the damage! The follow-up is there! Poseidon Vex, that was the burst of the Thief's Mark, crushing them right now, as they now have all the damage going in onto the tower.
That was the cleanest initiation I've ever seen from Nova. That was insane. Grizzly Q flickering in for the Dark Dominion, the instant follow-up from the Omen in the bush. Then the Liliana of Poseidon does what he does best and slowly, steadily wins that fight.
Or just in an instant. Either way, TJ, that was sick. The absolute trust in Grizzly Q that he was going to have them in the perfect position. Coco was there to follow up, Poseidon was there to follow up, and Vex was oh so happy, because if you Dark Dominion an entire team on top of a Chainhammer Cyclone, oh yeah.
I'd like to actually highlight something in Vex's build. He's
Oh.
building towards Leviathan as his jungle item. Normally you'd see a little bit more damage being looked for, but maybe in preparation for the changes in the next patch, he's primarily trying to get his HP up on the Fennec.
Well, I mean, it's good for him here because we've seen what happens. The pick potential from Dead Rabbits is huge. I mean, good for Nova. They found a pick of themselves in the jungle onto a key target there in Randoom. The Slims dropping was massive. They also simultaneously get Alex P and almost... Not almost. Not almost.
The range on iFlex's shurikens is so long.
It's really, really impressive. He's able to get himself in that perfect position to follow up on that key damage. Restless is going to try and look for an Agni's Grasp, but it's off cooldown. It's on cooldown, rather. He doesn't have any ability to pull somebody in right now, as it looks like Nova is pushing it onto the core, as Coco is split pushing as well, picking up kills of his own. This is massive right now, as we do have the snare onto Vex, but he survives through it. The shot is being blocked by iFlex, held at the core, but only just.
Very, very well done. iFlex again working out the play. Game number 1 on the Malik, game number 2 now showing up in the late game on the Valheim to augment their damage. Nova absolutely owe these games to him.
What a beautiful start from Dead Rabbits, but Nova found their rhythm. They identified exactly what Dead Rabbits was all about, exactly what they needed to shut down, and it's showing right now. Restless, though, with another Agni's Grasp. Max range, are you kidding me?
That is the only thing that is keeping them in this late game. Because Poseidon is scaled well, and their backline damage is not really doing any.
Here, have some light.
Boo! It's like a spotlight.
It is. It's a spotlight shining onto Random's corpse.
And it sucks, because if you're trying to play a backline DPS, Liliana is so good to counter that, because she doesn't necessarily need line of sight. With that shining light, she guarantees that she's going to find a big chunk of damage, particularly if she already outscales you.
And it shows here. I mean, one big spell to start off these fights. Ooh, Coco almost finding that death spec in there. One big spell to start this fight can just change the whole thing. Restless as well. He's the hero. He's the player I've got to watch right now.
Restless is the only reason Dead Rabbits are still in it. But there are players who can scale well. In particular, Alex P is somebody I'm going to keep an eye on. If he's able to get back in this game, if he's able to find value, there is still a world in which Dead Rabbits return to this match.
They have lost 2 high ground towers, so it is going to be very difficult to recover from this, though. They have to play cleanup duty. They have to babysit their core all game long.
This would be a comeback we haven't seen since Vitality stopped playing. Like,
the good old days.
Season 1 Vitality would work games back from this, but to do that, they had excellent wave management, and they stalled out for like 10 minutes.
I'm reminiscing of a Wonder Woman backdoor. I have the memories are there. as Dead Rabbits now needs to play under their last remaining tower. But look at the macro from Nova. They have the simultaneous wave crash right here, so they've got to clean this up. But look in the mid right now. The last high ground tower is already gone. Rest is not able to find the opening as Clamaris is already getting chunked. Coco is going in there, though. And Poseidon in the back doing that work. But we finally are seeing the re-engage. But it doesn't matter, because that's the core. That's GG. Game 2. Go to Nova.
Two games in a row, Nova Esports calls him the #1 most famous wizard detective, Warlock Holmes, and they show him none other than the key to victory to take down the Dead Rabbits. And they have done just that now 2 games in a row. Welcome back to the desk. I'm Jump. I've got TJ and Envirum. Let's break down this series.
No. I don't want to.
That's not how this works, TJ.
Oh, no.
iFlex, for me, is a major star of this set. Game number 1, he's so aggressive on the Malik. He finds so much pressure. Game number 2, as you're about to see, he steps up on the Valheim. Sure, they had a weak early game, but he's the reason they got so many towers. Poseidon, though, in that early game, is the only reason Nova turn it around.
It looked like Dead Rabbits was potentially going to run away with that. They start off with 2 dragons.
42% of the damage!
That's a lot of the damage.
Yeah.
We'll add that up to 43. He deserves that 0.2%.
And you might be like, I do that in solo queue all the time. Not versus Dead Rabbits.
And Dead Rabbits that had that opening. 2 dragons, 4 picks.
The only presence in the early game was from Poseidon. iFlex and Vex got 3 and 2 kills respectively. That is not enough to turn around an early game, and it is definitely an underperformance from those 2 players. iFlex, like I said, earned his keep late game as a source of tower damage, but Poseidon is the only reason they got there.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the team fight power that Nova Esports was able to provide in game number 2. Our AT&T replays show pretty much just that. At the 6.5-minute mark, we can see immediately how Nova's able to steamroll.
Grizzly Q on these initiations was perfect. He sets up the play beautifully. Poseidon flickers forward, takes that Thunderbird to save the day. Now he takes the rest of this fight very, very well, constantly in position, keeping Vex safe. And then this little play to make sure Sizer goes down is clean.
Sizer found the snare at the late game there, but it wasn't enough. This was the big fight, though. That was the 3-man Dark Dominion. Look at Poseidon in the back, identifying key targets. The focus fire from Nova as a whole was crucial, and then Coco as well was just impeccable. Restless got a nice 80s grasp. It was too little too late, which just seemed to sort of be the whole story of these fights.
And the fact that they have such good target calling is what really stood out to me in those fights from Nova. They're not just knowing how to sync up their abilities, they're knowing who to sync up their abilities on, and because they constantly know, okay, we're going to kill Clamaris, then everyone goes through, Clamaris melts, and they look sick.
This is a player that we've talked about week in, week out. He fought his way to the starting roster. He fought himself to a dominant force at Nova Esports. We just saw his performance in games 1 and 2 of our last match here in week number 6, and he's going to walk away with the regional MVP for Europe, none other than iFlex himself.
This man, especially game 1 on Malik, was the reason Nova won that game so dominantly. Game number 2, definitely a less impressive performance, but because he's able to turn things around late game on the Valheim, I really feel like that's how they're able to accelerate to quite that extent.
He was quiet, but it was just a lot of just impeccable play from the other side. He picked it up when he needed to. Valheim is hard to do a lot of work with early, but yeah, his game 1 Malik play, definitely deserving of that MVP. He looked incredibly strong, and he was just, again, part of the reason why they looked a good part of the reason why they looked so dominant.
Well, as we have seen now, we saw a victory for Nova Esports. They walk away with the 2-0 defeat over their opponent. Remember, we had our first matchup with Team Queso versus Existence, and now looking at how that plays out as we end our stuff for everything that is Europe for the day, we see Nova very comfortably finding themselves at 14-2, and now scary things seem to be on the horizon as Dead Rabbits finds themselves with 9 losses, tied with Team Queso and Existence.
Dead Rabbits have gone from challenging for first to being challenged to scrape out 4th. This is going to be a very scary rest of the season for them. They are absolutely still on the chopping block, and with teams like Bubble Team quickly rising to the fore in Europe, you're going to have to be very worried if you're not guaranteed a slot.
other regions, there's a little bit more of a set hierarchy that seemed to have been developed here, but EU is still very much up for grabs. Sao Paulo is the goal. Only the top 4 teams are going to make it, and you have, as of now, a two-way tie for that 4th place spot. But also, like, on either side of that, the bubble team that is now Dead Rabbits is under threat.
So now we find ourselves at the conclusion of the European region. We're not done just yet, though. Don't you worry. There's plenty of action left remaining. We've got Latin America. We've got North America. Do not go anywhere because the Valor series and all of the action in week number 6 returns after a quick break.
Week 5 in LATAM began with fire and blood as
Alright guys, that concludes the EU version of Valor Week 5. The series and the Latin American version would be next, and I think that's only like an hour long. I don't know if you guys want to actually play or if you want to continue watching. That was actually very insightful for me. Like, I learned a lot right there. I'm going to end it on this note, though. If you could please tell me if you want to play or if you want to watch more Valor. I'm down for both. Just hit me up for playing. All right, I'll play then. I'm going to set up, and I'll be back in like, 5-10 minutes. I already ate, use the restroom, yada, yada. So I'll be back. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hit the follow, like, or subscribe button wherever you're watching me from, whether it's YouTube or here. And I'll see you guys soon. Peace.